All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett, taking a look at the upcoming UFC 325, Volkanovski versus Lopez 2. And to do all of that with me, as always, the man, myth, and legend, the Ohio player, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
I am obviously doing great. The UFC aired on Paramount on Saturday. It is now Monday. We have an entire card to talk about, and I'm just very happy that I get to do it with, the best host out there.
Oh, come on. Appreciate that, brother. Yes, this is a dawn of a new age, really. We've been talking this up for what feels like months. I mean, it certainly has been, and, multiple weeks, of course. Now we finally have seen what the product looks like on the new service, and we've got a lot to talk about with all of that. I mean, a bunch of stuff to go through before we get into the actual card and the fights itself, I would say. Anything that you want to talk about before that?
No, I think, did you want to touch on any of the one that we watched on over the weekend? We had Friday morning, we had some one and very standard stuff to go on, but, I caught a little bit of the nightly one. Was there anything that, that was to note about? Was it Superbond that was there, I believe?
Yes, Super Lek, yeah, or
Super
it
Lex,
was.
excuse me.
Oh, no, not even Super Lek. Excuse me, Rambolek. That
Oh,
was who was on the was part. Hard to keep up. You know how this goes with the one cards, of course. But yes, Rambolek was in the main event, and he did get a nice victory. The one card that I watched on Friday night was good. Really, one is such a quality product, man. I mean, like it's very rare that you're going to get like a bad card. But the one thing I did want to mention about the card was it was, of course, the debut of the BJJ phenom, the 18-year-old Helena Cravar, and she came out there and did exactly what she was supposed to do. She got a submission very early, and that's what you want to see in a submission grappling competition. So
I,
good deal.
I did keep up with that match specifically, but I heard there was talk that she missed weight. What was that about?
Well, okay, so this is I don't remember the exact final conclusion of this, but apparently the match was open weight. That's what I'm hoping was the case, because she was apparently 20 pounds heavier than her opponent. And again, I'm really not trying to be rude to the young lady, of course. You can see that she was carrying a decent amount of weight on her frame, especially in comparison to her opponent. That's, I don't, whatever the circumstances or reasons for that is, that may be, whatever, but there was definitely a noticeable size difference. So but from what I understand, I think that it was intentionally supposed to be open weight, so it's not like she missed weight. She was just significantly heavier.
I think the main story that we need to talk about before we get into the UFC, of course, and I think it has to be that you decided to watch one over the prestigious Zuffa boxing. What was this about?
Oh,
Thinker, please
yes.
break this down.
So yeah, well, I made a statement about it in the Discord, and I will say it here as well. After deliberation, and I do apologize to anybody who did want to check that out. It was really coming. It came down to a couple of things. Number one, mainly, is that I am not a fan of traditional boxing. We've talked about that on this show plenty of times. And number two is I do not support Zuffa's efforts in the boxing space. I think that it is an attempted colonization of sorts. They're trying to UFC gentrify the boxing space, and I'm just not with it. Boxing is its own culture, its own world. It's got its own fan base that's very dedicated to it. This is really a vanity project for Dana White more than anything. And they also made a bunch of changes to the Ali Act that I don't agree with. So all of that being said, I just said, I'm going to take a stand on this, even though I was interested in a morbid curiosity kind of way. I'm not supporting this. I'm doing one championship where I can at least watch some MMA.
Well, there's a couple different points that I want to make again before we move on. So
Sure.
regarding Zuffa boxing, I don't know if anybody knew. There's a Zuffa boxing event this week, guys. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's another one. So if you're out there and you really liked it, or if you even decided to care, there's another one for you. Second thing that I'll note is if you're not really into Zuffa boxing, don't worry. There's another promotion Dana White is still trying to endorse: slap boxing, power slap. Guys, you can still catch that one. I don't know when the next one is, but it happens on Rumble or something like that. So make sure to catch that one. And then the last thing that I do want to know regarding one specifically, and Helena being an open weight 20 pounds over or whatever, the last time that I remember something similar to that happening is back when people would say that RDR beat the Rotullo brother in grappling or whatever it was. Like, that was a big thing, is why his grappling was so good, is because he beat the Rotullo. Mate, Rutulo's like 155. RDR was a fucking light heavyweight at the time, basically. So like, you get what I mean. So I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the interesting elements of all of that. I got to imagine that if it was supposed to be at one weight and they didn't just make it a catch weight, then it was open weight to begin with. That would be my thought process. But I don't remember if I ever got confirmation as to that being the case. But either way, I mean, they let the match go on, so a win's a win's a win. And she's actually this was another interesting note. She has been competing for so long and at such a young age that they actually changed the score the record keeping for her. Like they actually changed the way that they keep the wins and losses, because usually for BJJ you have to be a black belt level to have your matches count on your professional record. But for her, she got like added to the roster, to the record keeping, like early, and a couple of her a bunch of her amateur fights or amateur matches are counting towards her professional record, because she has an insane record. It's like 360 plus to, like, I think something like 20 losses or so. It's ridiculous for an 18-year-old. I was like, the numbers just don't add up on that. But then we found out why.
Yes, and when you say things like that, the only thing that I have to say is, Tapology, where are you? I need you to go ahead and start. You need to start condemning some of these promotions for letting her compete without a black belt or whatever the case may be before she's even professional. I don't know what it is, but you need to get on the case for Helena Kovar or Kovar.
Cravar, yeah.
Cravar. You need to get on the case because we need to figure out what the actual story is. And this is, one championship has a lot of different interesting stories. They be saying people are 100 and something and have two losses. And that's not even on any record that I can find online. And I looked deep for this one dude who was apparently had 45 knockouts, and never been knocked out. I didn't find anywhere that said that or had the actual names of these people. So maybe they never existed. And yeah, I don't know. It's pretty crazy to think about. She's 18 and doing all of this or whatever.
You are begging for a passive aggressive tweet thread from Tapology by saying this, by the way.
True, absolutely. And did we ever nail where the accent is from?
Uh,
French?
I think that her parents are like Croatian or Serbian or something like that. But again, it's she's American, so like
Mhm.
I think it just comes from her parents. I think, but yeah, I don't think that we ever got full on confirmation. Um, I don't know. One thing I also will mention, I mentioned on that watch along, is that she did repost my notification about going live for the event. So perhaps now that we're such close friends, maybe I'll try to see if we can get her on the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. Love you, Helena. Good performance. And yeah, basically the only reason we got to talk about one just now. So shout out yourself.
Absolutely, most definitely. So, yeah, I guess without further ado, let's start talking about some of this UFC event, but only after shouting out the chat. Of course, we had a couple people coming in early. Appreciate you guys. Beeb, Michael, the silent assassin. Appreciate you, bro. Hydra is here, of course, and CTE as well. Oh, Rick Allen as well coming in. Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Absolutely. Appreciate the chat, everybody being in there supportive. Love you guys.
Yeah, most definitely. All right. Well, with all of that being said, let's talk a little bit about UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett. This, of course, took place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada. As we have mentioned, this is the first presentation, the first non-pay-per-viewed number event of Paramount Plus era. I mean, we'll go down a couple of these points here, but first impressions of the product on Paramount Plus, Chase.
Well, to start, it took forever to start. I mean, if they really wanted us to pay attention to the people at the desk, I mean, sure, they really shoved them down our face because they did not actually start this until about 6:30 by my accords, if I'm not mistaken, and it took a while. And then in between a lot of the fights, it's not just starting late, but they had a lot of promotional stuff that was very useless to me. We also had a retirement that was very good, or a retirement package video. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So that was another thing that added. We had a whole introduction to the UFC for the main card where we had curtains and shit over that was all that was cool. But you would think I wouldn't have to wait an hour if you're gonna have all that shit still packed in there for the event to start.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess it's tough. call on that because, and we'll talk about all of these here. We did have a ton of fights switched up. Not a ton of fights switched up. We had a couple of fights switch up, and then a couple of people who missed weight. So there were dynamics. I guess the weight misses not so much, but the fights dropping off, that certainly played a part in the way that the card was structured. I would guess maybe a little bit because, again, because now they're with Paramount Plus, still within the traditional media space, they have a block of time that they're going to have to fill, and they're going to fill it one way or another. So if fights drop off, especially one of them being a 5-round title fight, that was a block of time that now has to be spread out and dispersed over the course of that runtime. So you're getting a lot more promos and ads and whatever, than you would have. It is what it is, I suppose.
Well, the one thing that we got more of, and we're going to talk about this now because there's no other point to talk about this. There is a crucial point to the Paramount era that happened, and they made sure to let us know at different intervals during the event. Blink 182 and Travis Barker is the newest phenomenon in the world. Did you guys know that they make music? I don't know if you guys knew. This guy was the drummer, and he has tattoos on his head. He
I
dated
mean,
the Kardashian, I'm pretty sure too. Did anybody know? I don't know.
if you didn't know, then a 5-minute promo of him drumming in the octagon certainly made that apparent. Good Lord. I'm sitting here. I'm like, when is this promo going to end? This guy is rambling on and on about the majesty of the sport and all that. And it's literally just him in the center of the octagon on a drum kit.
No, listen, guys, I like Blink 182. I do my emo music better than most, but this was a little too much. I was watching at first, before the fights even started. Again, we're waiting until 6:30 at this point. We got Travis Barker at the desk. What kind of analyzing is he doing, brother? Like, what are we doing here? Like, first off, get him out of there. If we're gonna have the promo later, don't have him talk 15 minutes before. Do the drumming before, then have him talk later. I don't know. It was really crazy to me that he had multiple different times where he got on the mic and was talking. I wasn't listening to him, clearly, but like,
Sure.
why was
Yeah.
he here?
Well, so from what I understand, and I have not actually fact checked this, but this is what has been told to me by someone who I know is involved in some of the business side of the sport. So I would tend to believe that there's some validity to it, but still take it with a grain of salt. From what I have come to understand, apparently Blink 182 is also repped by Endeavor. So there is probably a little bit of brand synergy crossover type of thing going there. You've got TKO Holdings, of course, Endeavor and all of that involved with them. So I think that might have just been what it is. They're taking Endeavor acts, artists, whatever, people who are repped by Endeavor and cross promoting them through the UFC. So I think that's basically what it breaks down to. But yeah, for the average viewer who doesn't know that, or like, even if you did know that, who doesn't care about that, like it is just a random celebrity for the sake of having a celebrity.
Why didn't get Theo Vaughn to go talk out there? Why didn't he get a stand-up bit in the middle of the fucking octagon?
True.
I mean, that's the dude who was at every event in 2025. Now we get Travis Barker shoved down our face because he's some super fan. Mate, I've never even seen him at an event. Like, are we serious right now? But speaking of cross promotions and things that they're going to shove down our throat, did you guys notice? Again, I don't know if anybody noticed. There's a movie out there. There's a movie series called Scream. There's a seventh one coming out, and if you didn't know, you could have seen Ghostface walking around in the arena following some of the fighters around. So what did you think about that, Thinker?
Is that a real thing that they actually had a walk around character doing that, or is that
Oh,
okay?
yeah,
I thought you were memeing off
no,
the
no, he
trailers.
actually no, not no, there was definitely a Ghostface that walked behind Waldo when he walked off
Oh
from the
my
fight.
God, I did not see that. Oh
He
Lord,
might have even had a knife, I
that
don't know.
is ridiculous. Holy crap! Yeah, no. What I was going to say is that a lot of people have been critical of the amount of ads that are on the product now. I didn't find it to be so bad like the way that people were making it out to be. I mean, we had ads on ESPN. I think it is a little bit more intrusive. I don't like that there are ads now playing over the cornering necessarily, things like that, maybe a little bit of an alteration over the walkout and stuff like that. But things like what you're talking about there, that is a little bit beyond the pale to me. It's like, come on, dude. Like how much advertising can you possibly throw into one event?
Now hear me out. One last thing that we need to definitely talk about because this is the Paramount exclusive access that we get. We are now watching Paramount Plus when the UFC is on and we get a multicammed view. What did you think of it? I saw you turn it on and turn it off, and you know what I did? I turned it on and I turned it off.
Exactly. Yes. Well said. Yeah, no, I do think that the multicam is very interesting, and I think it is a cool addition to everything. I like that it's there. I don't think it would be something I would watch a full event of, but that leads me directly into my next point. I would have loved to explore the multicam had we had the option to rewatch the full event. This is a big sticking point for me, of course, because we do this show and because I just like I'm a completionist to a certain extent. I like the complete product. So what you have now is if you want to rewatch the fights from this event, you can do that, but you can only rewatch the fights from the event. So that being said, you don't get your walkouts, you get the post-fight interview, but it cuts off immediately after that. There are a large amount of elements from the show that are just being now, I would assume, lost to time. I mean, I'm sure that they'll have it in the archives, of course, but it's not on Fight Pass. And I mean, maybe it'll be on Fight Pass like down the road. Maybe they'll release the full event on Fight Pass like after a certain amount of time. But for now, you better just be cool with watching the fights back. And if there's something funny that happens between fights, you better take note of it in the moment because you're not going to be able to rewind.
I think you're making great points, and obviously, to the next point of what Paramount Plus is lacking here, I was doing a little watch along, obviously getting some research done for for next week that we're going to talk about. But in that process, I was looking for some of the more interesting fights that have happened in the organization, which is kind of crazy. You would think they would have the certified bangers. When you go on Paramount Plus and you look up the fight nights, right? You can only search it by year, and it will only give you some fight night fights from that year. So I went on there and I'm looking for example, Dan Hooker versus Dustin Poirier. Doesn't that sound like an easy one? That should be on there, right? Nope. Couldn't find it. I searched. I was looking 2020 or whenever it happened. They have like 7 fights that you can select. 2 of them being some fucking bum, but like the fights that you actually want to look for. No, they don't have those, and I can't tell you why. So they obviously still have their issues. I don't know what the full catalog kind of quota is to say, but it's in practice, it's not panning out as what I would put on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's the ultimate takeaway of the whole thing is that there are positives and negatives. I think that some people were having problems with the actual streaming experience. I did not experience that personally, so I cannot speak to those elements of it, but I did hear that from people. So that's one thing there. On the positive side for me, that would be one of them. I thought that the actual viewing experience from the streaming side of things was fine. I did not, like I said, the ads was not a super big problem to me. There, again, pluses and minuses. I don't like that I can't rewatch the full event, et cetera, et cetera. We can go through all of the details of it, but the one ultimate takeaway beyond that would be that there was one question in the post-fight press conference that was asked of Dana where somebody said, people are having their criticisms of the presentation. Is this something that you can work with Paramount Plus on? Is there a dialogue going? And, maybe it'll evolve over time, or is this set in stone? And he did say that they have a great relationship with them. Obviously, they just signed a $7.7 billion deal. I'm sure that he's pretty much going to say that regardless, but he did say that it could be something that they'll look into and check it out and make tweaks to. So maybe this is still a work in progress and things will continue to roll out in over time. But for now, there are a couple of noticeable things that might stand for improvement.
Absolutely. And to get into some of these the chats, I actually think some are good here. Travis Barker gets a whole 5-minute octagon time. Meanwhile, Matt Brown tweets his retirement. That's pretty good right there. I like that.
True. Yes. Thank you, Beeb.
And then please let me mute commentary and have isolated cage noise. Fire. That's very, very fire.
True. Yeah, that has been has been a common note, I would say, is a lot of people would like to be able to they don't want to mute have the entire presentation muted, but mute commentary specifically.
What's also another great point? Considering now that I can visibly see every single ref wearing a cam now. Why is my multi-view not having some feature where I can switch the cams out? I get 2 identical ones, one without a timer, and then one that kind of changes maybe time to time, and then I get both the coaches' corners. How about I be able to change it to the ref cam the entire time so I can see what he's dicking off doing, writing his fucking grocery list and the shit over there in the corner?
Yeah, no, maybe again that's something that might change over time where you'll have different things that you can select and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But as of right now, it's all new. It's all stuff that I at least applaud them for being innovative to an extent with that kind of stuff. If there are things that might end up being better or worse, over time, maybe that'll end up happening. But you got to start somewhere. So I'm okay with those kinds of things. And there you go. Us talking about it here, perhaps they'll hear us. Maybe
Well,
that's going to be the next thing.
and that's absolutely, I think, what is my point here. I want to be able to get the opinions out there because the people that are going to listen, they're gonna figure it out. So obviously, Checkmate's preaching in here. It's a new platform. I'm sure they got some bugs for the content to be added. Can't be worse than finding out on ESPN, and obviously everybody else is hating ESPN like Hydra. Let's see what else here. Preach Hydra when it comes to when we want to hear fights and Yama, not their shitty commentary, of course.
Hey.
Um, and user has great potential and seems to be building the channel little by little. I think that's the key one that I wanted to talk about. The interface has one key flaw for people that are using it on the computer. When you move the mouse, the guide comes up like right on the screen
True.
instantly, and it doesn't go away very, very fast.
It's funny that you say that because I absolutely noticed that as well. Like if you move it, it stays for a minute. It stays to the point where you think that it might be frozen on, you know?
I think if you keep your mouse on the right side of the page, I don't think it opens up because I think it triggers on the left, but it's still like if I'm trying to do stuff, like
Yeah.
it's kind of in the fucking way.
Yeah, definitely. So again, these are all the things that we're just now being exposed to. So it's all kind of fresh. We're all just sort of processing it after the event and stuff. So I wouldn't be like overly like, look, if this event had been like a massive disaster, this conversation would be entirely different. You know what I mean? Like
True.
right now, I think that overall, the critiques that we have, like, these are not like things that are so major to me that it's like, oh man, this is a complete blunder.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I actually think it was relatively fine. There's another. If you want me to give praise to the Paramount features right now, I thought this one was really interesting, and I don't know how they did it. I'm not gonna lie. I was watching the fights on my computer on Paramount Plus. I went to a whole other house with a whole nother TV, pulled up my account on Paramount, and like the recently watched thing, like it was already up, like it was like already ready to play. Like the
Yeah.
fight that I was watching here, I was like, they kind of got me on that one. I didn't know how they did it.
Well, that's an interesting thing with that. I don't know if they necessarily were doing that for specific users or because it was debuting. Maybe they did it cross-platform. But when I logged in, on the computer that I use for Yama, I had never logged into Paramount Plus. I'd only done that on a separate computer. So when I logged in there, UFC was the first thing that popped up. Period. So like again, I don't know if it was just because it was making its debut or that I had picked sports when I signed up for the service or whatever. But I was like, okay, cool. Hey, you know exactly where I'm kind of going to, so here you go.
I'll tell you another thing, just because we're getting it all out. Since Paramount debuted, I got to tell you guys every little thing that I noticed, of course, and there'll be more as time goes on. But there was another when you're watching the live feed. If you scroll down, it'll show you the finishes of the card that you could just watch in little clips right
Oh,
there. So I'm sure you have to go to a whole nother page to do it, unfortunately. But like if it's live and it's like you just watched one end, you can go back and rewatch the finish if you really want to, just like in quick little sessions or catch up really quick kind of deal.
yeah. I mean, and that again goes to like the pros and cons aspect of it, like the double-sided sword sort of thing. Because like on the one hand, if you are trying to get in and get out and just get the meat and potatoes, the core of everything, they actually have done a really good job of streamlining stuff. If you are like me and want like the complete full version of things, that's where that's a con, because it's like you have those clips, that's great, but you're not going to get the full event, and that's to me an unfortunate thing.
I'm gonna tell you the biggest thing right now. This is the best thing that they have going for them. And like I've said, it's always Paramount's job is to keep people on the app. Like they need to keep them looking for something on Paramount to watch. When you go to the front page and UFC is playing, and the reason I had to know this is because my stream unfortunately was having some issues where it was lagging and freezing. I was one of these people having some issues, but it
Mhm.
wasn't that bad. So I ended up at the front home page of Paramount a couple times. And when you're sitting there and the UFC's on, if you're on any other streaming service, if you hover over a show, it starts playing the trailer or whatever. It plays the fights live right on the homepage. Like if you're hovering over it, it shows it at the top. It's like live now or whatever. It just starts playing the fights. And it may even, I don't know if it was playing the live fights, probably not because I wasn't watching at the time. Maybe it just played the last finish or something like that. But like the trailer of it is like the live thing going on right now, and I think that is a really big plus right there. People could be like, "Holy shit, that just happened! Like, I need to see what that's about." I can see a dude bloody from 5 minutes ago, like right now, kind of deal.
True, yeah, and well, and it's an interesting element of it too because I've been seeing some of the reporting on what the numbers were like for the event, and I think that it was somewhere close to 6 million as far as the average watch minute goes, which is an interesting way for them to even present that information. That the average minute watched, that's where the numbers landed. Like that many people in the average minute were there concurrent. So I don't know how they count that. Like, is it just people logging in and just happen to be there for that? Probably not if it's the average minute, but how many people came in off of that? Whole lot of things. When you really break down the analytics of these types of events, it gets into a whole deeper world where you can really like dig into the micro elements of stuff, at a very, very atomic level.
Yeah, absolutely. All in all, a lot of the things that I saw were very, very good out of Paramount, and I'm excited to get into the actual fights themselves.
For sure. Yes. I mean, and again, my last note on it is please, please, please just have an option to watch the full event back. That's all that I would ask for. It's really the only sticking point that I have is just, because we talk about we love to go deeper. This is a hardcore show here where it's not just about the fights, it's fight culture as well. And if there's a funny thing that happened on a walkout, I want to be able to rewatch that.
Exactly. For example, we would never be able to watch Gamrot run face first into the crowd when he tried to charge out into Rio de Janeiro. Like it's
This is
crazy.
a perfect example. How many times are you going to be able to watch uh the Russian Ronda dance to her death? You know what I'm
There
saying?
you
Come
go.
on, things
Exactly.
like that. So, but yes, that is all of the Paramount Plus elements of stuff. Let's talk, of course, about the fights. Before we get to the actual ones that took place here, we should mention, of course, Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes got canceled due to a neck injury and surgery for Kayla. That's a very unfortunate one there. That happened a while before the card, but then also closer to the card, Cameron Smotherman versus Ricky Tercios got canceled because Cameron Smotherman collapsed at the weigh-ins. That was very scary. And then the other two, just a very brief mentions of them, Alex Hernandez versus Michael Johnson, also canceled due to unusual betting activity. That was another one that I talked about on a live stream on Sunday.
Yeah, how'd
And
that go,
yeah.
by the way? Should we get into is there more that you unraveled from that? I figured there was like some underlying story that it may have been an injury, but I think Dana confirmed that no, it was I pulled it, like kind of deal.
Sure, yeah, I would recommend going to watch the VOD of that stream if you want the full story. But just in a brief summation of it, yeah, no, this is yet another potential fight fixing adjacent situation where there was an injury. That is the core of it. Was that Hernandez was compromised in some way? Injury is what it seemed like. Somebody from his team apparently leaked that information to an Instagram betting page, and that's where that all started to get out through that. So we've talked about that exact scenario before where it's like if it's not the fighter themselves, it's somebody in their team, how the levels of separation when it comes to fight fixing and things like that. We're getting into a whole new world with all of this stuff. And the fact that we had the Derek Minner situation and then the Dolgarian situation, and that was one length of time, and then Dolgarian to now being a much, much shorter length of time, you can see where things are trending. So again, go to the VOD of the live stream that I did if you want the full story of everything, but that's the basics of it. And this would seem to be a problem that is only going to get more prevalent.
Absolutely, and I definitely have to say this comment out loud because it's just absolutely great. Gamrot just knew he had to fight a Brazilian that night, and he just went for the first one he saw. That was really good.
Love it. Very nice. Yeah. So those were the fights that all canceled. That's why, as I said, a couple of fights canceling definitely changed the dynamics of the runtime and how they presented the show and all of that. And then of course we also had two weight misses. We had Alex Perez and Davison Figueiredo both missing weight by 2.5 pounds.
Absolutely, and we will talk about those individually very, very soon. Well,
Absolutely. So yeah. So I mean, without further ado, I mean, is there anything do you want to talk about Smotherman real quick and how scary that was? I mean, it was pretty frightening to me.
do, now, yeah, let's actually talk about that because we didn't actually talk about it on a stream,
Right.
or at least together. I think it was very, very scary. The reason that I think it was scary is because it looked as if he killed himself for that cut. Now, granted, I will say props to him. He made the fucking weight, guys. He made that fucking weight. Now, listen, he did not make it off the scale, and that is unfortunate. But the reason it was so scary to me is because at that point, scientifically, I've been told. there's no liquid left in his body. Like his brain is just there with no fluid. So when he hits the ground, I know it was not that hard of a tumble, but everybody's like, "Oh, he got his hands up. He braced himself." Guys, if he didn't have the energy to stand, he doesn't even have the energy to catch himself. Are you
Oh, bro,
serious? No way.
and I don't know what everybody was looking at or what angle they were seeing because most certainly did not brace
Eh,
himself.
eh,
He went face first into the floor.
Exactly. And then and when he hits the ground, of course, I'm thinking no fluid in his brain. Concussion is even more likely right there. I know it wasn't that hard of a fall, but listen, head for chin first, whatever. He probably had a concussion. And then on top of it, he did not look like he was recovering. Like it's not like, oh, I fell. Like, he looked like he was kind of seizing up, in my opinion. I was really worried. And it was kind of crazy because people have been pointing out, why is there no EMS on standby kind of deal? Like they just like fucking carried that dude out of there. Like, it kind of wasn't a very good showing from the UFC. If this was the people's first experience to like catch a weigh-in show kind of deal, like they just watched the dude die and then DC just went back to eating his fucking burger. Holy shit, that's crazy.
And
So
Michael Bisping went back to criticizing or saying that he has no sympathy for the fighters who miss
that
weight. That was pretty great.
that video, I'm almost certain because I haven't heard Bisping say anything about it yet, and maybe he did, but like that must have been the greatest AI video of all time. I can't possibly believe that's true. That had to have been a clip from Michael Bisping way earlier in the year. People had just green screened it and then just put him falling behind it because the angle. It's not just him saying it. It's the angle of him behind it. It's Bisping being so certain. He turns around. Oh shit!
It is
Like it's
so perfect. Yeah, it was like you could not have scripted it better. Very, very true. Yeah, well, the scariest thing to me about the Smotherman situation, on top of what you were just describing there, apparently he needed some stitches in his chin, so he is okay now. But what he said he made a statement thereafter to say, "Hey, I'm okay." But what he said was that he didn't have a bad weight cut. Those were his words. So I mean, I don't know what that would signal then, because to me, I'm like, if it wasn't a bad weight cut, then what was it? And now the imagination can go to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I definitely that is something that somebody else has pointed out. Like if it wasn't the weight cut, then they need to be doing some other tests on you because
Yeah, and
I
they
mean,
did.
but the point is, it is obviously the weight cut. Like I know he can say like, "Oh, I had a great cut," this and that. It was like, mate, you clearly just lost the energy in your body. Like you were dehydrated. Like it didn't look like anything other than that. Like I didn't sit here and be like, like with Macy Barber, okay, fight night, she's having some sort of episode that's like, okay, that's different. Right after your weight cut, you're at the most drained in your life to make this fucking cut. You make the weight, and then you just pass out. Like I mean, it happens. And I get he's trying to reassure people, like like I was doing all the right stuff, like and he probably was, but like mate, I mean, some people just they react differently. I don't know. He clearly needed a. What's funny is most of the people that walk to the scale, they had a water bottle. They have like their little UFC PI water bottle with them. He didn't have shit with him. I feel bad.
True.
They left him out there to dry. No coach walked up there with him. Sometimes you get like to hold his arm and
Well,
walk with
that's what
him,
I
but
had said too, is that, unfortunate for him because all he needed to do was to make it those 10 steps just to get down the stairs, and he probably still would have fought, which is crazy to think about. I mean, obviously, under the circumstances, he should not have fought. But, had he been able to make it to the backstage area, then, you know.
mate, he could have made it two more steps and went face first down the stairs. Like it could have been way worse.
No,
Like
of course, obviously. No, yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
but
look, I don't think that, like I said, I'm not happy that any of that happened regardless, but I'm just saying, like, had it been that way, he might have still been able to be cleared.
let me tell you, no, I think that is the incorrect assessment, and I think the other people that should have known how incorrect of an assessment that is just DC and fucking Weidman probably is the other one. Maybe he was on the other side, but either way, those are going to be the two for the example. They're sitting there questioning if this fight is still going to go on, guys. You just saw this dude lose his functioning in his brain and fall to his face. Like no fucking chance, just no
Well,
fucking.
that's why I had asked, is because there were people still thinking that it might have been, and like anytime you see that, it's almost an automatic cancellation. So I don't know.
CTE actually cooking his team not being there to hold him makes it more believable. He had an okay weight cut. True. I mean,
Yeah, it's a good
true.
point.
But makes it more scarier though too. True, dude. You're actually really cooking. I like that. But yeah, no, it was definitely scary. Definitely no way because and I'm watching this one. It's kind of funny. Me and my dad normally don't watch the weight cuts because he hates just sitting there watching them do nothing. They're just getting on
Sure.
the scale, and I turn it on, and I'm like watching it for a second. And he walks by, and Cameron Smotherman falls. Like it's like the one thing. Everybody in the world happened to catch this dude fucking faceplant,
Right.
unfortunately. And my dad's in there. He's like, if the commissions let him go in there, and he fucking gets a brain injury now, like they're at fault for letting him continue. He's already compromised. And I agree with him. Like the commissions would be at fault. If he goes in there and fucking, Vicente Luque for example, something like
Sure.
that, he's no way was that fight going to go on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was kind of a ridiculous thing to think that
Yeah.
that was even the conversation, but still, yeah, no, I'm glad. I mean, I'm glad if it was going to happen, that they handled it that way. The same way that I am glad that they actually canceled the Johnson Hernandez fight this time. Obviously, they learned from the Bulgarian situation.
This is probably something similar to what had happened with Brian Ortega that one time. If
Could
if I
be
can't be if I'm mistaken, it happened in China, right? Uh,
the
somewhere Brian Ortega, they said he fell or something, and they took him to the
oh
hospital, but he was still potentially going to fight. Is
that
what
no
the story was.
that was in Vegas, I believe, because that was I think when Dan Ige ended up fighting Lopez.
No,
I
I
think.
think I want to say it was a different one than that, but maybe you're
Or
right. But either way,
maybe he's just had multiple ones. He does have a history of bad cuts. That is
but
true.
either way, we got to get into the actual fights here.
Absolutely. Okay. So that is all your very, very long preamble. Obviously, the first event of the year on a new broadcast partner. There's a lot to go over that is not related to the actual fights, but let's talk about some actual fights, shall we? Let's get into
Absolutely.
this thing. So, of course, again, just to remind everybody, of course, we are talking about UFC 324. That is Gaethje versus Pimblett. And the first fight of the evening that actually took place was Adam Fugit versus Ty Miller, the newcomer, and Ty Miller making a big statement in his debut, eh?
Well, actually, let me start off by saying if you were watching this live, you would know this fight is Ty Miller versus Adam Fugit. I don't know if you guys catch that one, but yep, there was a good one for you. But no, this one was really, really fun. I'm really happy with my judgment on this fight. Ty Miller, again, it showed a lot more power in his strikes than I remember him having. But I was right on point with it. The volume and the accuracy was going to just add up for this guy. I mean, he really came in here with a mindset to just blitz this guy and put him out in the first round. And granted, 1 second on the clock did he do it. He got it done in the first round. And Ty Thriller Miller, everybody, if you thought Bruce was having a stroke like me and saying Miller, Miller, no, it was Thriller Miller. And I give him credit. This was a very fun fight to start off. I want to actually make one more point before I let you go. I think Ty Miller is a product of a guy who could maybe bulk up a little bit or it potentially even cut down. He's not somebody who comes in super shredded, so that makes me believe that he could probably cut down and probably get to that point. But also at the welterweight size, like he doesn't have like a super muscular frame. The striking is going to be able to hold up, but these guys at welterweight might be able to muscle him around from what I'm looking at just instantly right off the bat. But go ahead.
True. Yeah. No, I think you're making a good point there. And just to touch on what Chase was referencing earlier, of course, Bruce Buffer announced the fighters in reverse. He announced Ty Miller as Adam Fugit and Adam Fugit as Ty Miller. So that was kind of funny. And then yeah, you said that you thought it was Ty Miller, but it's actually Ty Thriller Miller. So
Yeah.
okay, now all of that out of the way. No, I think you make a good point about his size. Yeah, the dynamics of this fight, I think, were pretty clear from the start of it, the way that this was going to go, because I think the theme of this event, as far as the fights went, was people refusing to level change when they clearly should have. And it started right here with this fight. Adam Fugit was just deciding to stand with Ty Miller, and I didn't realize. I guess maybe they had said it on the Contender Series, and I was on a stream and didn't hear it or whatever. But Miller, I guess, is a Golden Gloves boxer, so he has really nice boxing, and that shows. I think that the boxing style is another thing, like you're saying about his weight being something that he could have some issues with some of the other guys. I think that being a little bit quote unquote boxed in to the boxing style, no pun intended, might be something that may end up coming to bite him, but we haven't seen a lot of him tested in other ways because Adam Fugit did not try to level change when he very clearly should have.
You know who I think this time Miller and similarities when it comes to the nationalities, of course. I'm going to seem a little offbeat here, but I'm going to say Ty Miller. He potentially, and I think he needs to do a lot of tape watch on this fighter right here. Steve Garcia is, I think, somebody who this guy needs to get. Like, I think the intensity is there for first round, just run in there, dog it out with whoever's right there. And the striking, obviously with the boxing background, Golden Gloves, I did hear that on the rewatch as well. I was like, damn, that kind of adds into why they would want him in the UFC. You know, he's not just some guy who can box. Like, he is a credentialed boxer kind of deal. So makes sense. But if Ty Miller can, in this fight, if he could, whenever you fight, you should always take something away from your opponent. Always, if he got one over on you, take that into your next fight, learn from that. Adam Fugit was able to split Ty Miller open with his elbow, and
True.
it was a really good chunk of him kind of missing in the top. If Ty Miller is able to mix in elbows along with the great striking that he has, he tried to do it. He tried to do the copycat kind of thing, like, you split me, now I'm going to try to do it. But if he's able to be the initiator to just mix that sneaky elbow in after he lands a good combination, and then comes in with an elbow that splits somebody, that's going to be the next level to his game. Of course, he's got to fucking kick at some point. Like, I mean, but for now, it works. I mean, you got a dude who's not going to level change. Of course, just go out there and starch him in the first round.
Well, right, and that's the whole thing, and that's always going to be the note with when you have a fight like this is always, well, what's it going to be like when somebody does something different? Because we didn't see a lot of variation to what was happening in the fight. It was really just Miller with some really nice striking, especially that right hand. CTE saying that Miller's right hand couldn't miss. That is absolutely true. It was, the right hand was super money for him. It was a lot of him doing that, and a lot of Fugit just taking the shots. I mean, this dude was getting shots from all angles. I mean, finally he landed that spinning elbow, which is the one time that he had like an actual bit of offense in all of this, it feels like. But then Miller was just right back to the offense of his own, drops him the first time. Instead of wrestling at that point, pops right back up. I was like, bro, this was your chance to panic shoot, my guy. Come, what are you doing? But comes back up, and then the right hand just keeps going, and then he actually dropped him with a knee, which I was like, okay, there's a little bit of a variation there, but we got to see a little bit more well-roundedness, because like I said, being boxed in with a style is not good, regardless of how good you are with that style.
Listen, I think there's a natural evolution to your game. I mean, you just have to establish that you're great at something. In his first fight, he established he's great at striking. It's not just he's good. He can knock people out. And get it done in the first round. We can maybe talk if this was a little earlier or not. If it could have went to the round two, but listen, he was whooping this dude's ass. Like, Ty Miller, he does have some hands, and now he put the division on notice. For right now, welterweight, we got a new striker in town. We don't know what else he's got, but we know that standing with him might be a little dangerous because, like I said at the beginning, he packed a little more of a punch than I thought he was going to. But his hands looked really, really good. The stats here are kind of lying. They're making it seem like he's a little inaccurate. I actually thought he was on fire for right now, for what this was.
Yeah, most definitely. A little weird statflation or lack thereof on this one, but yeah, no, the accuracy was good. I mean, really, I think that it speaks to the volume of the attempts, just in the fact that it was all his show. I mean, this was, like you said, this was one round of just really solid work, and then one spinning elbow from Fugit. I mean, the stats on his side are a little bit inflated to me. It seems like it
Right.
didn't feel like he landed 39. I mean, or that like 36 significance. It's like, anyway, this was a really solid debut for Ty Miller. Still some questions, I would say, and then speaking to the finish, slightly early, but I was definitely not mad at it. This was definitely one where I think that it was an appropriate stop. Could it have gone the extra second and give Fugit a chance to maybe come back and try the level change, maybe, but you got to be more in it than that. And Tyone, I think, does a pretty good job as far as that kind of stuff goes. So I was all right with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anybody keeping track out there, I don't know if you guys knew, but we are keeping score this time. So we both picked Ty Miller. So the score is tied up here. I'm just letting you guys know it is 1-1 Thinker Chase. So everybody out there, make sure you know who you're keeping up with, and make sure you know that one of us is out here cooking and the other one doesn't know jack shit, apparently.
True. Well, and I like the way that you're doing the score keeping as well. Chase has a little spreadsheet that he's got going, and I like that you're just tallying off, like, one for the person who got it correct and zero for the other one, because then at the end of the year, you can just go down that row or that column, and at the end, we'll just see who got more right and who got more wrong over the course of the year.
I was thinking also I potentially could, because when I was typing it out, I was like, for a lot of these, I did do a method. We would do decision or KO. Specifically for this one, I did Ty Miller by KO or whatever. I was thinking we could do +2 if we got the finish right, but we don't necessarily do it for all of them. So we'll just keep it by the books. Maybe next year we'll expand to going into finishes.
Yeah. I mean, I guess let us know how you feel about this in general. If you want it to be more in depth, we can expand it. But for now, I think that that's fine. So
Absolutely, this was good.
this was good. Yeah, great debut. Good deal for the kid. Obviously, coming in and getting a knockout in your debut is a great thing. Of course, I guess we didn't mention this, but this is a perfect time to mention that there is now a finish bonus for all finishes. So if you finish your fight, there's a $25,000 incentive on top of potentially being a fight of the night or performance of the night kind of incentives as well. So Ty Miller coming in here, probably like DC said on the commentary, doubling his purse most likely. Still seems a little bit crazy that would be a full-on doubling of the purse if you really break that down. But either way, it is what it is in this sport, and now $25,000 extra for him for that.
I will just, we'll sit on the finish bonus thought for a little bit because I have my own opinions on this. I think
Sure.
it is, just to throw it out there, I think it's a little crazy that these people won't fucking fight unless you tell them that they're going to get fucking 25,000 extra if they finish it, but who am I to say, we'll continue on with this.
Yeah, well, right, and there's definitely gonna, what we'll come to find on this card is that even with the extra $25,000, you don't always get finishes. So it's still some things never change, I guess. But
And some of them are a little scandalous as we'll talk about this next one.
oh, yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one then. This is the other fight from the early prelims. This is Josh Hokett versus Denzel Freeman. I mean, you talk about the first fight being a one-sided affair. Good Lord, this was not a great look for our guy, Denzel Freeman.
Yeah, sometimes you have to put hope out there, you have to throw things into the ether, there's obviously one side of the equation, there has to be another side. Some people, you got to be able to dream sometimes. That's what I will say here for Denzel Freeman, but what I will say, the one thing that he has that he cannot say that anybody else has on him is not just one, but as two of the worst performances in the UFC. No, and it's not of the worst. It is legit. Like there has never been a person who debuted and had a second fight that is just as worse. And I'm going to tell you the other name, and you're gonna laugh, but you cannot deny the only other person that's looked this bad in two UFC fights and been cut is CM Punk. And this is listen. There's only one other person that's been made look that bad, and nobody has ever been looked this bad to get TKO'd by a middle fucking finger. Like it.
Bro, okay, yeah. I mean, we got to go over the details of this thing
Go
because, yeah,
ahead.
this was that. Yeah, so, I mean, look, what you need to know about the actual fight itself was that Hokett was all over Freeman from the start of this thing. And there's a couple of notes that I do want to highlight, but we should probably skip to the meat and potatoes here, which is what you just mentioned, the finish of this fight. So after battering and ragdolling Denzel Freeman, which at heavyweight is a pretty impressive feat, I'm not going to lie.
Yep.
Hokett disengages and flicks off Freeman. They're now on opposite sides of the cage. There are only a handful of seconds left in the round. So if you didn't watch or you didn't need a refresher on this, Hokett is at distance, good amount of distance between them, and he's flicking him off and turning his back and walking away. Freeman goes down into almost like a catcher's crouch position for a second there, just seeming like he knew that the round was over. And then Mark Smith just stops the fight. And that's the end. And people were saying in the chat, and I hear what you're saying, guys. Oh, it was protecting the fighter. He had been so battered, this and that. Brother, I cannot abide by the idea that you stop a fight when the opponent is halfway across the cage. If he had been engaging in that situation, absolutely stop the fight. If Hokett had been there and punched him in the face, you have all the leeway in the world to say it was keeping the guy safe. There were 3 seconds left in the round, and he was crouching to catch his breath, knowing that the round was over. It's hard for me to be okay with that.
I want you guys to think back not too long ago. This was maybe a year-ish ago. This would have been the fight before Chris Curtis's last fight against Roman Kopylov. And it was the third round. Roman Kopylov lands a head kick and walks away. Mark Smith stops the fight while Chris Curtis is getting off the fucking ground. Like it actually, when you think about it, I saw it and I said, it didn't really surprise me. It's like, yeah, that's the shit that he does. He decides when the fighter's fucking done. He it's not even the protecting point, because I made this point with Chris Curtis, bro. Roman Kopylov's halfway fucking across the cage. He walks over, huddling his fucking head, like, "Dude, you're good, you're good." Like, what are you doing? Like, are you serious right now? The middle finger thing is funny, and like, yeah, Denzel Freeman definitely did not deserve to go to a second round. But are you? I've seen countless fights go to the second round that do not need to go to the second round. Like, I've seen countless fights go to the third round that do not need to go to the third round. But the point is one, you gave Denzel Freeman an easy way out of a fight. I should have seen him get his ass whooped for a second round, to be fair. I should have seen Josh Hokett put on a really good fucking performance, which I'm on his side now. Listen, I've always been if you beat the guy that I think will beat you, I will go ahead and root for you until inevitable downfall. But Josh Hokett came in here with some intensity. Denzel Freeman, let me actually tell you another funny thing. This is really important. Before the match started, obviously I had this hype for Denzel Freeman. He's got the jujitsu. Apparently he's sub Steven Asplin. Not apparently, he did. And leg kick, high kick, whatever. They are walking him out to the cage, and they said, yeah, after the Marine Corps, he went to the Performance Center and he tried out for the WWE. And in my mind, I'm like, they don't let just anybody go to the Performance Center to try out for the WWE. You have to have some sort of credentialed wrestling background or something. So in my mind, this dude was unstoppable.
Well, apparently he's a Greco-Roman guy, is what they were saying on the commentary, which does not necessarily translate well to MMA in a broad sense.
So I in my mind, this dude's unstoppable. He's got everything in his fucking bag. When the fight started, I said, Jesus fucking Christ. Oh God. This is
Yeah.
why I'm glad, because I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is gonna be the fight that I'm gonna be so mad I didn't put $1 million on. I didn't go to the bank and tell them give me everything and put it on that fight. And I'm glad I'm not fucking broke, guys. I'll tell you
No,
that.
and you hear, I'm not gloating over this one because I do think that your thought process was sound. I thought that you made sense. Hokett does not like the leg kicks. He did wince to them before. There's nothing to say that couldn't have been something that Freeman picked up on. But really, I think that Hokett's game plan was pretty good on this. Is just come in, blitz him, put the pressure on. The one thing I will say is that I wish it had gone to a second round because I was curious to see how Hokett would be able to hold up trying to keep that intensity over 3 rounds. I mean, as a heavyweight, that's a ton of weight to be moving on your frame the way that he was moving. To his credit, Hokett pretty light on his feet as a heavyweight.
I actually agree. No, and it's not even just that. I mean, he definitely walks in with an intensity to like throw hands. It's
Sure.
not, and Denzel Freeman, he threw strikes. He did not land them. They weren't good strikes. And Hokich kind of just bitched him around. Did the giddy up pony, kind of slapped his ass a little bit.
He certainly did that.
And this actually was a night of memeing that I really wasn't a fan of. Sportsmanship goes a long way with me these days. Like, come on, like, we're in a 3-round bout. Have some respect for your opponent. I know Denzel Freeman, but like, brother, come
Well,
on.
now you're coming around to my thought process here, Chase. Perhaps you're becoming an old man too. But either way, like you are correct about that, and I certainly felt the same way. But I got to give Hokett some credit for some of these things here. So one thing that I loved from Hokett, which actually I think was the biggest note for me, was I really appreciated early in the round when he finally got Freeman to his knees and he was on his back, and you saw him side switching to keep him off his balance point. He was doing like the side to side motion on his back, basically keeping him from being able to plant, to get balance, to find the stand up. I was like, that is a really impressive move. And again, as a big guy at heavyweight, to be able to move like that, the transitions were really nice and very fluid. And then there was the other time where Freeman, they had gotten back up, they were standing up, and Freeman is getting tagged up. He goes for a double leg, and then Hokett does this really slick jump off move to evade the takedown. I was like, he's agile as well. I mean, like this, there's a lot of things to like about Hokett. I wish he wasn't such a cringe lord to make me hate him so much, because I really think that he's a pretty goddamn decent fighter.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about his post-fight speech in just one second, because
Sure.
when you were talking about his wrestling and what he was doing, all I could think about is, man, he was showing shades of Hamdi Abdullah Wahib when it came to the wrestling. But hopefully, he's a lot better than my guy. That's all
True.
that I'm saying here. But
Yeah.
no, the post-fight speech, absolutely atrocious. It would be if he actually, I get it's like a WWE promo kind of deal, like in a way, but like he doesn't have confidence that he's saying any of this stuff. He just like says it in his like cringe lord voice. And sure, I'm talking about it. I mean, that's the entire point. But I'm gonna talk about every other fucking person's post fight speech, so it ain't really nothing special, Josh Okic. All I would like to say is I'm going to mute you every time, most likely. So
to me, I'm sitting there listening to it, and I'm like, what is he trying to accomplish? It reminds me a little bit of our review of Roadhouse. Actually, if you have not seen the Roadhouse review, go and check that out. But on that Roadhouse review, Chase, you were asking several times, what is the director trying to make us feel or think at certain points of the movie, right? So I took that mindset into this performance, which is what that is in the post
mhm.
fight, certainly a performance, and we all know that. But that's my point: is you know that we know it's a performance. So like, what are you trying to get out of this? If this is a 4D chess where he's trying to be as cringe as possible to make us like cringe at it, and that's the intention, and it's like he's like being a character on purpose to be the cringe guy. I guess that there's some like okay thing about that, but my thing was same with Colby is that just because you're doing it intentionally is not going to make it any better. I don't like it anymore knowing that it's intentional. And if it's not intentional, then you just are the cringiest human being ever to live.
I think what the worst part is, and hopefully you can back me up on this, because as somebody who knows, I don't know music, but there's some things that I can pick up on. This dude's rhyme scheme is awful, bro. It's cheese, bees, knees, D's, nuts, like, and it's horrible. Like, that's every single thing that he does. It's rhyme seven things in a row, and rhyme off something else at the end, and then start again, rhyming seven things off of that thing, and it's never fucking good. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, no, very nursery rhyme esque. Definitely what I said about it, and I think you could appreciate this, Chase. I said that John Cena is a better rapper than him.
Well, let's not fucking start here. John Cena is a very good rapper. Let's actually get that out the way. He's a platinum artist. But either way, Josh Hokic is terrible. Yeah.
Fair. Okay. Well, we don't have to go too far into it then. I didn't mean to touch a nerve with the John Cena reference. I thought it was, but I'm really all more of what I'm saying is that like he is not doing it's not doing anything that is impressive or resonating with anybody. And then of course he has to bring the political stuff into it. And that is always an instant hot button issue just to even go in that like that area. I'm like, why did he call out this random person? Like that seemed to be an odd choice. I guess some people thought it was funny. I thought it was as cringe as anything else that he did.
Mate, well, first off, Hydra, no, I actually very much enjoy Chael. Like, that's the thing, is I know what good trash talking is. Conor McGregor, that's a good trash talk, to a certain point. Josh Hokic, though, like, he doesn't have any shades of like giving you belief in like the backstory and the context of like the character behind the trash talk. Nate Diaz, like the trash talk, it's like there's a character that you can buy into behind the trash talk. Stockton's own. Josh Hokic, it's like he's just fucking talking, bro. And then Brittany Griner, mate, I watched basketball for a really long time, and even I know that is a 2012 reference, dude. Like, Jesus,
True.
Lord have mercy. She went to prison like in 2020 or something, but like, again, Brittany Griner, nobody cares about, like, as
Well,
of right now.
I guess that she's going through a transition of some sort, but either way, it doesn't. Again, it's just a dumb thing to say on top of dumb shit, and that's. I'm glad that you brought up Chael Hydra because yeah, everybody is like everybody sees the greats to have done it and try to like put their spin on it to an extent. You're he is no, I knew Chael Sonnen, you are no Chael Sonnen. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Like the same with anybody who's trying to imitate Connor. You will always just be an imitation at best, and at worst, you be Josh Hogan.
Listen, I'm not spoiling something, but a tweet came out. Ilya obviously thanked the winner of the fight that we're going to talk about later, and the ending line was it was so auriful, and it was because he was just being real. Like, he said, and I'd like to go ahead and thank you, but you're already screwed. Like,
Right.
like, dude, like, it's just like he's kind of spitting bars here. Like, Hokic, you can say as many fucking things that rhyme, and you can say as many controversial political things. I still don't care, but I have to root for you now because you beat the dude that I thought was going to win. So,
That and also, I mean, look, if his aim is to get more eyes on him and be talked about, we have talked about him for a lot longer than we would have. So I guess he's accomplishing his mission to an extent with that, right?
well, I'm gonna go ahead and talk about this next fight 10 times longer. How about that,
I
Josh?
like it. Well, let's get right into it then. The next one up is
Oh,
Alex Perez versus Charles Johnson. This one hurt my heart, but of course we do have to caveat this. Perez missed weight by 2.5 pounds.
we do have to add an asterisk to it because Jesus Christ, I hate that this is the way that it went down because uh, after the last performance, this definitely gave me a little boost on the night. Like, man, I picked Denzel Freeman, but I remember you asking like, what do you see in Alex Perez? And I told you straight up, this dude puts his face in the fight and he throws hands back. And you know what he did? He did just that. He walks in and just throws big old bombs. And obviously he's got a weight advantage. But from what he was able to do to Charles Johnson, I mean, I ain't never seen nobody like. It's the same thing with Brandon Royval. I ain't never seen nobody. Jeff Neal's another one. I have never seen anybody make them look like that. Alex Perez had Charles Johnson flying around the fucking cage. And it's unfortunate because he caught him early and then Charles was recovering. And then we get another flurry, knocks him down again. And then we get kind of an interesting stop. And the reason I think this is an interesting stop is because one, you can argue if it was early or not. Sure. The stop was bad because Jason Herzog stops it. And then he just kind of stands back. He let Charles Johnson get a whole across the cage and shoot a takedown on Alex Perez, who's on top of the cage at that point.
True.
Why are you not separating the fighters? Like, why are you you stop the fight, right? You have to stop the fight. You're letting Charles Johnson get an entire sequence off. He literally ran, like he's stumbling across. He literally like sweeps the leg, goes for a takedown. He's hanging on the leg while Alex Perez is on top of the. It's like, ref, where are you? What are you
Right.
doing
So,
right
well,
now?
so you're saying that it wasn't a bad stoppage because it happened. It was a bad stoppage because of him not actually restraining him.
Yeah, like I mean, it was definitely, in my opinion, dude. He fell face first on the mat. I don't care if he got up
Yeah.
after that. It was definitely time for the fight to stop. But
True.
stop the fucking fight. Don't let Charles Johnson continue thinking he's still in the fight. Like grab him. Like yo, you're done. Like it's over. Fight's over. I know Charles Johnson was mad,
Well,
but
I think
dude,
he was just an autopilot because he was out. I mean, that's the thing. This is what I had said about this: is that this is when and why stoppages on the feet, quote unquote, a little bit of not exactly on the feet, but stoppages on the feet in a general sense are acceptable when applied correctly. And I thought that this was an example of that.
no, and I think Hydra Herzog is not physically capable of having a good stoppage. You know what I think was what it was? I think he was going to let that shit go on. If Perez wouldn't have jumped on top of the cage, I think he was debating on. He stepped in, no, 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 and then he stepped away. He didn't. He was nowhere near Charles Johnson. The dude was face down on the mat. You're telling me Jason Herzog couldn't? Yo, you're done. No. He let him get up. Potentially was going to let this fight go on until he realized, like, I can't get out of that one. The dude's on top of the cage celebrating, like
I
shit.
mean, Muhammad Yahya would have wanted to keep going if he was in there.
And he let it, and he let him go
And he let him
seven
go.
times.
Exactly. You certainly did. Yeah. It was the stoppage was a little bit interesting, obviously, with all this, but it came after. This is why, like I said, it should have been stopped where it was stopped because the way that he went down at that point. But like, if you trace it back throughout the entirety of this round, it came after a whole lot of other heavy damage. What I say about that, the first 1-2 that Prez lands clean, that was the first time that he dropped. That second, the left of the 1-2, that the firecracker sound effect went off on that one. Like you could hear the impact of that. And you're right about Perez, man. I mean, he, like I wouldn't even call him a run and gun. He's decently composed, but he is powerful, man. Like when he gets his hands moving, he certainly can use them effectively. And so from that moment, it was Johnson really just trying to get himself into a position to recover and get himself back in. But Perez was on top of him throughout the entirety of it. So you trace it back to where it ended up with that final drop where he face planted. The stoppage was good that it happened. It gets a little bit debatable with the points that we just mentioned otherwise, but it should have been stopped is I guess the major point.
Here's what I'll say, and this is a great point for me to bring up, and it's about sportsmanship, right? When it comes to you're in the cage, you're fighting a guy, and when the fight's over, emotions can be flaring. Obviously, Charles Johnson did not agree with the stoppage, and he kind of blew off Jason Herzog, kind of deal, and then he's walking around the cage mad. Perez walks up and tries to say something. Charles Johnson blows him off initially. He's mad. Perez, he's cool. He walks over, and then you see Charles Johnson actually come back in the frame, and like he's like, "My bad." Props to you. It's not your fault. We know what the deal is. I'm not mad at you. My bad. And I was kind of thinking like, in any other time, I wouldn't have cared. He could be mad all he wants. I get it, but like, he's respectable enough that he knew that it wasn't Perez's fault. It was more than just whatever the case may be. So it's things like this. I've talked about Charles Johnson on Twitter a couple different times. I've talked about how good he is in the cage and, things that he's done, that he's accomplished, but things like that. I think this is what being a professional fighter is about. Another day at the office, you take your wins just like you take your losses. And I think Charles Johnson, great showing right here.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad that you said that too, because like what I really want to stress to like people who think that a fight like that or other fights with similar circumstances should go on, like, oh, he wasn't out, why, he wasn't down, he wasn't on the ground. You got to realize how it is when a person is in a knocked out state, basically out on their feet. Like, I always go back to that example of Wonder Boy, when Wonder Boy talked about what it's like to be knocked out and to just be like in that conscious but unconscious state at the same time. And he's basically saying you're operating without actually being in control of your body. You're in an autopilot kind of state. So you got to realize that like there are times like this where you're in an alternate reality, so to speak, because you're not there. You might appear to be there, but you are not. So when Charles Johnson finally did come back, what you said is, yeah, it's very applicable and it's good.
And Hydra, no, I'm sorry if I made a mistake. No, he went and apologized to Alex Perez. Like, he didn't apologize, but he was like, good match. My fault. I didn't mean to get mad at you in the situation. No, he was definitely mad at Herzog. You could see it because when they raised his hands, Charles Johnson didn't like give him his hand to raise. Obviously he has to do like the double, but
Yeah.
then like he just like kind of held his hands there
Well,
and then
he
he
should
just
not have
walked
been mad
off.
at He shouldn't have been mad at Herzog, in my opinion, though. That's what I'm saying. I mean, Herzog I think that under the circumstances, this was a fine stoppage, and it definitely should have been stopped when it was.
And then to cap it off, the last context here, Charles Johnson did come out on Twitter and say, "I've rewatched it. He gave me plenty of opportunities to fight back."
Okay,
So
good,
eh,
good.
it, even he could admit that there was opportunities for him to fight back. There was a long period where he was out of it. It was really hard to watch as a fan and say like, "Damn!" Like when you get to the point where somebody's an underdog, it's like, come on, Charles, like don't go out like that. Like, come on, Charles, you can do this. But like you clearly see like a fighter who's compromised already. Like he literally that first knockdown, dude, like upon rewatch, like, dude, that first knockdown really fucked him up.
Oh
And the
yeah,
fact that
oh
it
yeah.
didn't get finished right there was pretty crazy. So
True. Yeah, most definitely. And I'm glad. I'm glad that you mentioned that as well. That him rewatching it and doing that again. He's not there, folks. That's what I'm trying to
yeah.
tell like anybody who thinks, oh, why was it stopped or is that bad stoppage or whatever. No, he's on autopilot. So him having to rewatch it, like I'm glad that he did that and made that conclusion because in the moment he did not have the intellectual capability at the time to make that call or be mad in general. So
Yeah.
I think that that's a good thing there. The last note that I had about this fight, aside from this being just a complete ass whipping on Perez's side and a really nice performance, aside from the weight miss, pertains to the weight miss. And Perez's Octagon interview, he said, "I knew my job was on the line. I missed weight, but that's a mess up on my part." I said, "Bitch, you are 2-5 in your last 7, and you missed weight. Your job is still on the line."
Yeah, no, that's absolutely hilarious. I love when people are just like, yeah, I shanked it, but new contract on the way, fuck it.
True.
People do that all the time, and Alex Perez has came out and said that, contract negotiations are looking very bright for him. It's like Brian Battle thought he was getting a contract too, I'm sure, so we'll see how it is. I mean, it's all smiles and shit after you win, but just because you win and you miss weight, brother, things can happen. So
Well, I mean, then what I'm hearing from that is that we might end up seeing Alex Perez in Dirty Boxing giving one of the most inspirational post-fight speeches of all time then.
true, absolutely.
So, well, either way, we'll see what happens there. But in this fight, good job for Perez again, aside from the weight miss. Really good performance.
Absolutely. And we didn't actually tally it up after the last fight, but I did lose out on the last one, so I did not, or on the one before this, I did not get any points on Hokic, but Thinker did get the point on Hokic. I get the point on Perez here. So at this point, I think it is all tied up. Is that how that works?
I
Yeah.
think
something
so.
like that.
Yes. Yeah. We're neck and neck at the moment on the tally here.
Oh, yeah.
Let's move on to the next one. This is Nikita Krylov versus Modestas Bukauskas. I said, you ever see a fight so bad that a knockout can't make it worth?
That is actually so crazy. And, I feel bad because the fight, I remember on the podcast, I wasn't sold on Bukowskis. And I was in my mind, I'm like, there was that one fight I remember that he just did nothing against Cutelaba. And I can't tell you why that one sticks out so much to me, obviously. before this fight, that's what I'm thinking about. But I remembered, he is on a huge win streak right now, 4-fight win streak, 3 finishes, whatever it is.
He
When he
was.
got, I was watching the weigh-ins. He weighed in after Cameron Smotherman. When he walked up there, I mean, he looked at the dead body and he's like, "Fuck, I'm fucking here." I'm like, dude, I'm like, Jesus Christ, that dude looked like a fucking animal on the fucking scale or whatever. So I'm sitting here thinking like, geez, like this is the pick. I mean, I know that one performance is sticking out to me, but I don't know everything. 3 performances to 1. Surely he's not going to be that bad again. I don't know how to explain it to you guys. Modestas Bukauskas is just bad again. It's crazy to me because too, in the fight, I'm sitting here thinking like, as the fight starts, I'm like, he just needs that one. Krylov's chinny, he just needs that one. As the fight goes on, you see how many of those ones that Bukauskas actually lands, and it's not many, but it is clean, powerful shots that just do nothing to Krylov. And it actually, like, I, some fights from the beginning, like, yeah, this dude, he ain't fucking winning. Like, he ain't here to fucking win. And I think this one right here just had it all over. Like, Bukauskas, he gave him his best shot. Krylov just smiled it off and stuck to the game plan, And I think it's fucking insane that we did not see this one coming. But who could, for
Well,
real?
yeah, I mean, it really was just like what Rogan said. It's like he was in first gear the entire fight, and yeah, if it was because he like gave him his best shot and then just decided not to do it again and again and again, then yeah, I mean that's an unfortunate like way to be. But like, it's hard to say that that's what it was or if it was something else. Either way, a terrible showing. I said that how crazy is it when you are getting emoted on by Nikita Krylov in the 3rd round? That is not a great look. That being said, shout out to the 10-7
I was
anyway,
about to
brother. Of
do
course,
it
got to
first.
do.
Yes,
Come on,
absolutely.
dude.
He was thinking we were going to miss him. Damn
Give
you,
me a
10-7.
break, bro. Give me a break. No, and I also said, Chase, we're gonna get the guys from 10-7 on this show at some point on a Friday show.
Absolutely. That'd be really, really good. But no, this fight here, like you said, absolutely atrocious. And then to cap it off, you get the one of the I mean, when I say one of the goofiest, coming from the 2 other goofiest finishes that happened on this card already,
True.
but this fight right here is so insane because on paper, I mean, Krylov had a huge comeback, bro. He got a knockout in the 3rd round, some war that he went through after getting knocked out twice, against some killer on a win streak. On paper, okay, good. I respect it. Mate, please give him somebody else. Please give him another dude that can knock somebody out. And I'm going against Krylov again. I'm telling you guys.
Oh
So
yeah, no. Well, that's the thing is, it's like I cannot imagine Modestas Bukauskas navigating this fight with the information that we have, the way that he did. Like, I mean, like, what this dude is coming off of. You know that if you continue to do the things that you need to do, eventually it's going to add up, or you can get the shot that seals the deal in one. Like, it's either or. But he didn't do any of that through 3 rounds, barely turning up at any moments throughout all of this. Like, there were a couple of them to the point, like I said, Krylov is over there. He's jogging in place. He's Fortnite emoting on this guy right now, and then all of a sudden ends up knocking him out right before the fight ends. It's like, I cannot believe that this is how this all played out.
yeah, absolutely. And Hydra, back-to-back controversial finishes, then this stoppage, and then of course what we got later. Yeah, no, this stoppage was even weirder because he drops him literally with 10 seconds left, and then he's getting some ground and pound punches, and I'm like, no way he's gonna get this finish. Like, come on, there's 3 seconds left. And then you see Modestas literally just like lifeless. Like, it's like, oh my fucking, like, are you fucking serious, bro? You do nothing the entire fight. Krylov, credit to him. He's actually a very good kickboxer. He actually has some really good kicks, really good form on it. He mixes them up a lot. I mean, you can look at the striking right here, 25 leg, 22 body, good deal. But Modestas getting dropped and finished with ground and pound in the last second, it's like, dude, give me a break, bro. I hate to say that, like, my heart knew all along that Modestas was not like the guy, but like, my brain understood why I should have went with that, like, but
Oh,
I
sure.
you
Yeah. No.
couldn't fucking predict this.
Well, and like, this is, I think that I also have to make a mention as to like where we were at when it came to like the year end spectacular and like why he ended up on that list. He did do those things. You know what I mean? He did have the year that he had. The fights were still what they were. You gotta take into context what that category and that he was in was. It was the stock raised based on the accomplishments of the year. That does not account for the quality necessarily of the fights and all of that. I mean, it should to an extent, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you get 3 wins in the year and those are your 3 fights for the year. That's a stock raise, but you still have to take the fighter himself into the equation when it comes to these kinds of things. Also on the other side, Nikita Krylov coming off the losses, this should not have been the fight that this was. You know what I mean? This should have been completely different. And also, I have to note, there was so much clinching in this fight. He had so much time to think about game planning. He had so much time to alter the course. There were a lot of things that could have been different in this fight. He didn't do any of those things. It gets you right back to square one with your thoughts about this fighter, you know?
You know what's crazy? And this dude trains with Tom, by the way. Tom Aspinall is just ruining fighters left and right. Martin Boudet is out of the fucking thing. Mick Parkin doesn't even fight anymore. Buchecha is terrible. Ante Delia gets
Oh,
knocked out. I mean, you
God.
can go down the list of people that A, are not going to fight Tom, and B, are just not very good anymore after they've trained with Tom. So keep him away from everybody. I mean, Patty the Batty was seen with Tom a little bit ago. I'm not saying they were training together, but listen, we'll get into it. This fight here, absolutely atrocious showing from both of them. Now that I actually think about it, the fact that Modestus, went to decision with Cutelaba and wasn't able to actually engage or be very aggressive, should have seen that one coming. This is actually a pretty good matchup that's like elevated from Cutelaba. Like Krylov has a lot of those same skills while also being very, very bad, but like he was able to pull out the W kind of deal. So I think
Yeah.
it was good matchmaking on their part, but damn, Modestus really fucking shit the bed, bro.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, Krylov outworking Bukauskas through most of this fight with minimal output. That's really the ultimate note here. I said Krylov was going to win this fight either way. He was up both rounds going into the third and the third as well, pretty much. So, getting the knockout was a cherry on top of a shit Sunday in a way, but it is what it is. And shout out to him for getting back in the win column. He did take his gloves off at the end of the fight. I thought he might have been retiring, but no, he's going to be back. So, we'll see him again. Great.
Yeah, hell yeah.
All right, let's keep it moving here then. This was an interesting one. So, as we had said, this is the first card of the year, and up until this point, we have had all finishes. I don't think that anybody could have predicted that this would have been the first decision of the year. This is Teba Gauthier versus Andre Pelayev.
Yes, and nobody would have expected this fight to go to decision, of course, because, well, Gauthier is a killer, and he still showed that in this fight. He showed that he has the power of a killer. And I'm going to note this right off the bat. My dad really wanted me to bring this up for you guys. Gauthier, he had the opportunity to finish this fight in the first 10 fucking seconds. He did not, and my dad wanted to give him props. Like, he gave him the opportunity for a fight. It wasn't just like I'm gonna just whoop you and we're getting out of here. He came in here with the intent for experience. He came in here, he could have finished it early, but he didn't. He gave him the opportunity to fight back. Now I will admit, to his detriment, that is why he did not he was too measured. He knocked him down 3 times and he did not pounce on a finish. That is what Gauthier, unfortunately, is going to need to take away from this matchup. But the only thing that I would say nobody expected, and I'm going to give major props because we have been down talking Andre Pulayev for a little bit. He is a lot tougher than a lot of people are ever going to give him credit for.
Sure.
To get up as many times, willing to stand with Gauthier, is impressive. Now, I will say, he is very elusive, very outside kickboxing kind of guy, but I think I'm going to start to give him props. I think he's a very smart fighter. And the reason I say that is because he knew to stay at range the entire fight. He did not break the game plan, stay at range, kick him in the stomach. I thought the kicks were actually adding up very, very well. Pulayev has a very good left body kick, and it was working. And then he didn't do it as much later on in the fight. But to have the he stood with him. He never shot. Let me just say it that way. This dude has a lot more heart and a lot more grit than I feel like I was giving him credit for. And I feel like he fought a smart fight in the sense that he did not get knocked out. He's the first dude to take him to decision, let alone a second round, third round. He did it, and I will give Pulayev a little more credit going forward now.
Well, fair enough. Yes, it leads me perfectly into my first note. Shout out to Pelayev for being one tough moron,
Yeah.
content with getting dropped multiple rounds and never once considering a level change. This is, again, the theme of this card, people who desperately need to be level changing and just not doing it. Pelayev certainly in that camp, but like you said, very tough. He gets knocked down by the first punch of the fight. Gauthier was on the hunt for it, but somehow Pulayev, survives that one, which again goes to the point of what you had said. Gauthier, it seemed like there were multiple times in this fight where he had the ability to continue the combinations. Like I said, the second round, Gaethje had Pulev on the cage, landed one of his signature combos. He loves to do the power shots followed by knees. That's a a really solid thing that has worked for him multiple times at this point. He then just decides to back off at some point. Like, he just stopped the combo. I was like, bro, why? You literally had him exactly where you wanted him. It made me question his cardio a little bit. To his credit, his cardio did seem to hold up decently. He did fade a little bit in the third, but it might have been because he's conserving, because he's huge. Even at middleweight, he's a pretty big guy. I think that maybe there's some factors there.
I think also what was key is, and I don't pick up on this stuff. The stance was giving Gauthier very, very much problems because Pulayev, one, was able to be elusive. He's getting his head off the center line very, very well here because Gauthier just throws these straight bombs, and when he throws his straight right, Pulayev is just dipping out to his weak side, and Gauthier was not able to just land these bombs, as much as he wanted to. He had to set him up a little more easy. There was a knee that he landed that was pretty good, that was early on in the fight. It shows really good instincts from Gauthier, but he didn't have the ability to switch stances and, give a different look that actually made Pulayev, go a different direction. He was just circling him the same way, and as soon as Gauthier was able to cut him off, he just circled the other way and then go back the exact same way. It wasn't really that hard of a task, but it was a very safe and effective fight to go against somebody who's very, very dangerous like this. And I agree, doing that against Christian Leroy Duncan, we don't want to see it. Listen, I think this one he was more willing to show his toughness than he was with Christian Leroy Duncan. That's the way that I'll put it, because I think this one right here truly he showed his toughness. Really, that's what it was.
Yeah, well, and I think that it was a better showing of the toughness and also a better utilization of the core skill set, I guess you could say. The things that he falls back on, I think, actually work to his advantage better in this fight, because much like on the Contender Series, Pulayev overreaches his hand striking like crazy. His shots, when he's throwing punches, he is loading them from a mile away and arcing like from such distance. It's amazing that he can land sometimes with the way that he is throwing these at the crazy amount of distance he's doing it. But it's even more amazing that he doesn't get countered more. Like, and I mean, I think that Christian Leroy Duncan was close enough range that he was able to kind of get past a lot of the longer range stuff. So this is a better utilization of that, because like you had said earlier, Gauthier was having trouble with the stance in general. So if he's able to already keep that distance, then utilizing long range attacks, he doesn't have as much of an opportunity to be countered, because he's just not in a range that is counterable. But, I mean, I can only say that I think that it's going to eventually catch up to him when you have like a ranged kicker. That's going to be a problem at some point. Somebody who can, wait for you to throw that or the overhand and then just go in for a head kick. There's something there. It's little holes like that I think might catch up to him. But when you pair that with the toughness and what Gauthier brings to the table, it worked out for him in this instance.
I think positives here. Gauthier made 3 rounds, carried his power through those 3 rounds. Did not look shook. He didn't look worried. Like, he looked confident in his game plan, even though we know as a spectator there's some work to be done. But he's 23 years old or whatever it is. I mean, he's got the athleticism, he's got the skills that can make him, a very well-rounded, piece of clay right now. And he's still, again, everybody's still got a little path as a fighter. He's not just going to be undefeated. Obviously, he's already lost once. He's not just going to go into the UFC and mop everybody. There's going to be somebody who shows the way that he can be beat, and then people are going to start exploiting that. So we'll see what the next fight, what type of fighter they give him. If it's somebody a little more, interesting, if they really want to jump. Listen, somebody who's a really good kicker, speaking of, in middleweight, I know it's a little out of reach for Gauthier right now, but Shara Bullet would just eviscerate him with kicks, so
it's a good point.
And he's a tough cookie too.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. And to that, along the same line of thinking, Gauthier himself needs to mix in more kicks. If he had mixed in some low kicks, it could have really stopped the movement of Pulayev. That just things that he needs to improve to like make his game plan more effective in the broad picture. Like, because obviously the power is there. Like you had said, I think he's still moldable. I think that there's still like learning to be done. But that would definitely be one of them, is mixing your own low kicks, the calf kicks, go the inside leg kicks kind of route. It'll slow your opponent down so that you can get your range, the closer range shots off, that the stuff that he does best, and then get those follow-up knees. that comes from immobilizing your opponent. All of that being said, my last question, and unless you have anything else, we can move on. But my last question was, do you consider this a bit of a fraud check?
Um, that's actually the next thing I was going to bring up. 10-7 was talking about this huge story on a table. I think the bigger story is that he was already exposed. I mean, exposed that, you can get knocked down by him, but I mean, speaking of, Elite brought up in the Discord. I know mixed feelings, everybody here, but Elite brought up in the Discord that Gauthier doesn't flatline people. He's a TKO kind of guy, and in this fight, it's crazy to believe that he did not once go for the TKO. He was like expecting to flatline this dude, and it showed just a little too much measure out of him. And fraud check, no, of course, like he still won the fight, he still looked good, but exposed a little bit of what you can get away with on him. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you're in the opposite stance and you're able to just dodge a straight right, I mean, anything's possible at that point. You didn't just make one extra round, you made another one, you made it to the judges, and one judge gave the other guy, or two judges gave you a round off of him. So potentially there's something here. Obviously, when you look at Jose Medina, Robert Valentine, like all these other, they're not very good fighters. But Andrei Pulayev, a guy that we did not agree was or that we did agree was not the greatest fighter, he was able to take a round off of him. So there's better people out there as well, that I'm saying here.
True. Yeah, no, I agree. And I also do not think it's a fraud check in the broadest of senses. I want to draw a comparison. I think that it is an exposition similar to what we saw out of Joel Alvarez moving up to the higher weight now, where, you had a version of the fighter in your mind based on what you had seen out of him in a different capacity. Now you have an opponent that, granted, the circumstances are a little different because it's a weight difference for Alvarez. But what I'm saying is that you get different looks out of something else from the fighter that you hadn't seen before, a different version of them, different circumstances. It changes the perception. You see that there are weaknesses that are exploitable when the circumstances are different than what they were before.
Absolutely.
So, all right, good deal there. All right, well, then that brings us to the last fight of the prelims. Oh, buddy, this one was a fun one, wasn't it? This was Umar Nurmagomedov versus Davison Figueiredo. What a do-nothing fight this was.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, it's not that we said it. I mean, how do you not expect that? Did we really think that this was going to be a banger? No, it's shelved on the prelims for a fucking reason, and we realized why. Like as soon as we watched this fight, I mean, you saw nothing happen for 3 rounds. That's the insane part. 30-27 is valid, but I mean, how do you score nothing really? I know that they have total strike scoring here, but I'm honestly not gonna lie to you guys. Did they punch each other once? I don't know if that's even factual.
Brother, 0 landed strikes for Figueiredo through the first 4 minutes.
Yeah, so that's pretty nuts to think, and I think we're getting to the point out of the last recent figurator performances. And listen, this guy's a former champ. I've always said championship DNA. It's a little different. You want different things. He went to bantamweight with the idea that he could go claim gold, but after his recent performances, Peter Young was actually a really good one. I'll give him that one. But this one and Corey Sandhagen, he might have just been in it for the money. I'm serious. Like missing weight on top of it too here is pretty crazy, but like he genuinely, first off, you're a fucking fat flyweight who misses weight. Then you go to bantamweight and now you're a fat bantamweight who misses weight. Can you make your mind up? Where do you want to be?
Yeah, you are really cooking with that one for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that being what it was, what I said, if CTE is still in the chat, this is a shout out to him because CTE posted a video in the Discord after this fight that I thought was very illuminating. It was someone had put together a fast forwarded version of the fight, which is just the fight playing at, I think, like 2.5 speed. And if you watch this fight in fast forward, it is so apparent how few total engagements, strikes or otherwise, even with the takedowns, there were a couple of them. Obviously, it's an Umar fight, but there were so few engagements, period, in this fight. So really, I say that to say, when you say that the Piotr Jan fight was a good showing for Figueiredo, Piotr Jan made him fight in that fight. This is what you're getting out of Figueiredo when he is left to his own devices and Umar is going to fight how Umar fights. Like, this was a very standard Umar fight because again, Mario Bautista made Umar fight a little bit more than this, of course. And you saw that he actually had to work for it. You had 2 guys both waiting for the other one to make the other one do something. And this is what you got out of it. absolute shit.
It's actually kind of funny because if you remember back to the Peter Yan fight, it was kind of funny early on in the fight because they both would just stand in front of each other and stance switch because they were trying to get this extra good look on each other, and they would just sit here and just stance switch, stance switch, stance switch, and like it was funny to a point. It's like Figueiredo is not doing anything other than just playing around at this point, but then he actually had to get drawn into a fight, and they actually ended up doing stuff. But like this fight here, Umar brother, I think Hydra makes a good point here. Has he ever had a crowd pop? I don't know. I really don't know if this is facts. I mean, I know he knocked out Ronnie Barcelos, but that was probably on the Apex, and people like did the Wii, like the golf clap or something. But
True.
this is, bro. This is supposedly somebody who's going to come take the belt. Like I can't. I know Islam. He's a little more exciting than I feel people give him credit for. But genuinely speaking, if there are people out there who are like Umar rightfully deserves the belt, he's the best in the division, he deserves it, guys. This is not the best fight. I mean, he's 20-1, but it's because of this fucking way he fights, bro. Like I just can't believe people are letting him get away with this still. Like and it's not his fault, really. It's Figueiredo's fault as well. They both did nothing for this fight.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is that, one, we talk about the Piotr Jan fight. That was a 5-rounder. So, I
Mhm.
mean, at least you can fall back on if they were, doing the stance switching, kind of emoting for a little while, that at least it was in service of longer fights. So, and then they did eventually engage. But that's besides the point here. I crashed out on the watch along at one point where it was in the second round. Figueiredo is just standing there taking pictures, not throwing shit when Umar's face is in front of his and he is backed to the cage. I'm like, like, if this is not the point that you're going to strike, when are you going to strike? It's not going to happen. Again, no pushing of the pace on either side. So like you said, takes two to tango on this one. Somebody needed to take the lead. I guess Umar took the lead to an extent with the takedowns. Fine, whatever. Lay and pray king over here. Did not want to push the striking. This was inevitable. And Joe Rogan knew what was up on commentary. He gets a lot of shit for some of his more wild takes, but he was right on the money with this. This is not a performance that screams, give this man a title shot.
Absolutely. I definitely agree. And we're going to talk about that a little later as well. But like this performance right here, I mean, it's just proving where bantamweight is at right now. I mean, you can't for the life of you find somebody who's not just on that bullshit. Like Jesus Christ, Marab at least was dedicated and hard nosed. Peter Yan is too, but like when it comes to these guys, Corey, Umar, Sean we'll talk about, Cheeto, like
Yeah, so you really go. You got the champ, and now the number one spot, and then just whatever down the
yeah.
list. It's bantamweight really is and that's another funny thing. I did just say Joe Rogan knew what was up there, but he also did on commentary say, the stacked bantamweight division, and it's like, bro, come on. We went over all the divisions at the start of this year. The bantamweight is possibly the lightest division right now.
True. Factual.
Unfortunate. So yeah, 30-27s across the board. Okay, great. Another more win. Like I had said, I think that he is a winner. That I think that those are two different things in his context. Is he good? Yes, he wins his fights. He is excuse me, is he a winner? Yes, he wins his fights. Is he good? That's up to your proclivities of to what you like in a fighter and the fight style and all of that. So, really you can feel how you want to feel, but you saw this fight. It's hard. If you do not have a beard that is, around the bottom and no mustache, then I don't know if you really were feeling this one all that much.
I could be mistaken. They didn't give him a post-fight speech, right?
Did not actually, and I do have a note about that because literally because of the way that Paramount Plus is, if you go back and rewatch this fight, they literally cut off the announcement of Dominic Cruz getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, which is, we can talk about that in a second here, but they cut that off on the replay immediately as Anik starts talking about it. He's like, and now we have a big announcement, a guy who's done, so many things in the spot. And then the video cuts off.
Nice. You would think they would bring up Habib. He's already in the cage. Like if you're watching it and it cuts off, you have no idea who they're talking about. Clearly, they'd bring up somebody that we would know if the watch along is going to cut off right before we find out. But no, Dominic Cruz, of course, gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. So what do you think about that, Thinker?
I mean, I said it on the watch along. I don't think that anybody can be mad at that. I mean, or have any negative opinions about that. Dominic Cruz is as deserving of being in the Hall of Fame as anybody is. And what he did in this division that we were talking about being so light now cannot be overstated. I mean, he's one of the best to ever do it at that weight. So yeah, really, I don't have too much to say about it. I think it was almost a foregone conclusion that he was going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, obviously no real remarks on if he should have been in or not. Obviously, he's a Hall of Famer. Did you actually watch the promo video? Was it a good one, or is it like standard what we've seen from promos? I didn't catch this one. I was
Yeah, I mean, standard, yes. Yeah, it was definitely standard. It was fine. Dominic Cruz was on the broadcast, of course, so it was nice to, see him able to actually take that in and stuff.
I saw Bisping, Bisping was right next to him, and he was like, "Man, congratulations." I was like, "Man, look, they are bros." As much as they bicker, but man, like they are bros.
Well, and I didn't want to go too deep into it, but it's like, you have to get past Dominic Cruz's personality to be okay with him. And that I think is what Bisbing has the ability to do. So shout out to him for that.
Yeah, I mean, they're the
So
same. They're the same fucking person. That's really what it comes down to.
it's true. Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Bisbing, I think, hides it a little bit better, but he can also get pushed. So yeah, Cruz, I've had plenty to say about, the nature of how he carries himself and all of that. I don't hate Dominic Cruz by any stretch of the imagination. I think that he has negative personality traits that make him a little bit unlikable at times, but overall, I think he's a decent guy who's just a little bit of a prick.
Well, the thing that I would say, and this is a testament to you, you are a very big fan of Dominic Cruz and his podcast abilities of what he's able to do with Matan. You have two different episodes, right? Where Matan makes an appearance and Dominic Cruz is on there. So shout out to Thinker for going in here and doing some research and diving deeper into Dominic Cruz and Matan's relationship when it comes to social media.
Yeah, well, yeah. If you're a fan of Matan Evan, we have two streams where we watched a couple of fighters on with him on one, and then Dominic Cruz on his show, and then him on Dominic Cruz's show as a separate stream. So yeah, very deep dive into all of that, and entertaining to an extent. So good
Yeah,
deal.
absolutely. But yeah, shout out Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, look, Hall of Famer to be sure. Again, nothing really can be said otherwise. I would say I think that you'd be hard pressed to find anybody in this space who would have a dissenting opinion.
And now I could be mistaken. We left him out on or accidentally, or maybe we threw him in late when it came to the year-end wrap-ups on retirements. So
Yes,
they
I think
must
we
have,
did.
so they must have just been ready to show a package for the Paramount event. They were holding on to this for a minute now, I would say.
True, and actually, that is an interesting element of it because this, I think, is one of the quicker inductions into the Hall of Fame after retirement that we have seen. I mean, he retired last year and is in the Hall of Fame now. I mean, that's like either that or it was that. That's what it was, right? I mean, it was a Hall of Fame induction. I'm fairly
I
certain, right?
think you're right. I'm pretty sure that's what I saw as well.
Okay, yeah, because I want to make sure because like now I was second guessing it. I was like, that's a really quick turnaround to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, but
Maybe it was
again,
just
deserved.
maybe
So
it was a retirement one. I don't know. I
yeah, I
don't
mean,
think so. They do a retirement one. It's
well, no, and
normally
I
just a Hall of Fame one.
And I believe that they actually did a retirement video package for him. I'm fairly certain that they did because it was one that was during an Apex card and he wasn't there for it. And I had said, "Oh, that's interesting that they did a retirement video for him when he's not there." Because if you recall, Dominic Cruz he announced his retirement just on Twitter, basically.
Yeah.
Like it was just kind of an unfortunate thing with the injuries and everything that he's went through. So, if that is the case, again, it deserved in Hall of Fame. It is interesting that it was so quick turnaround on that and. Shout out to Dominic Cruz.
Yeah, Hydra. It was Hall of Fame. Shout
Okay,
out to him.
perfect. Yeah, I was gonna say I was second guessing myself for a second there, but good deal, man. Very good. So, all that being said, let's get into main card here. This is, of course, your first fight of the main card: Arnold Allen versus John Silva. My first note from this was that DC thought that Arnold Allen was from Canada because he trains at TriStar, which I was like, I didn't realize that he was a TriStar guy training with Faraz Zahabi. So that's interesting to me. But God damn, speaking of Dominic Cruz, how right is he about DC and his research? Good Lord, DC. You didn't know that Arnold Allen was an Englishman?
Yeah, no, that one is definitely pretty crazy, but yeah, I'm not surprised. DC waffles a lot. So this one, I think we're actually going to get into a decent debate about because
Uh-oh.
I'm pretty confused about this matchup itself because when I look at this 30-27 for one of the judges, that immediately sticks out to me as somebody who clearly did not watch the fight. Because when you watch this fight, round one, in my opinion, Arnold Allen won. Now, if you want to be these people who say that John Silva had that last 30-second flurry, sure, I'm not a big fan of doing nothing until the last 30 seconds and then you saying that they won the round. But sure, if that's what this one judge is going off of, fair. 30-27, going off the first round. Second round, you have the exact same output from Arnold Allen. John Silva, again, is not doing anything much more than trying to just land bombs, which he's not really landing. The damage is starting to wear on John Silva's face. So again, I'm confused on where he wins the second round because if he won the first round based off that last 30-second flurry, well, he didn't get that in the second round. Arnold Allen landed like two big knees. He had like a running knee that he landed right up on John Silva's head. Then he gets him up against the cage and has a good clinch knee to John Silva's head. And then he lands a big bomb again at the end of the round, cracks Silva with like 10 seconds left. So where does he not win round two? Okay, that one is very confusing. Round three, I would definitely argue. Or not argue, but I would definitely agree John Silva won. I'm not a big fan of memeing your way to a victory, but I am not really here to believe. And I watched this again. I do believe Arnold Allen won those first two rounds. So 30-27 makes me really furious, but 29-28 is still incorrect.
I mean, okay, well, that I think is where maybe there's a debate. I will absolutely agree with you that 30-27 is atrocious. This was not a 30-27 in any stretch of the imagination. That was a poor judge's scorecard. What I said is that I thought that Silva did look sharp through the first round, even before the flurry. I thought that the uppercuts were what did it, and then also the pressure. I think that really, again, optics of this sport, and we'll talk about another fight that is coming up that I think also speaks to the same point. I think that it was really Silva on like pushing the pressure that was the earlier part of why it made sense. And again, the uppercuts were there as well. I thought that he was doing decent work. It wasn't a crazy output on either side round. It was a little bit slightly feel outish. I mean, there were some decent connections, but like it wasn't as intense as the other rounds were. And then the flurry on top of it, I think pushed it over the edge. So I think that there is definitely a case to be made for Arnold Allen winning that round, because after I also rewatched it, I said I can kind of see a little bit, but I'm of the mindset that he did win that first round personally.
Yeah, no, this one, I don't know. It's just absolutely crazy to me that Arnold Allen once again. I mean, it's not that he. I'm not mad that he lost. I'm just mad that they didn't make it seem as close as it was. And this is again, we go back to the issue with unanimous decision versus split decision. I think we have a fighter with Arnold Allen. He's one of these guys, and Nathaniel Wood is another one of these guys. You never are going to get a fight where it's a clear cut decision for one of them. And the fact that you're making it seem that John Silva just mopped the floor with him for 3 rounds, it's not what the case was. I mean,
No,
this was a hard test for John Silva. John Silva, he got bitched by Diego Lopez in the first round, but arguably had very good success in the second round, was looking very, very good. What he was not doing is looking as good as he did in round two against Diego as he in against Arnold Allen. I think Arnold Allen had a very good game plan. Like I was very confident he's not going to fall into the gimmicks, and he did a very, very good job. And I thought, uh, dude, because John Silva rides him like a surfboard in third round doesn't mean he gets a 30-27. Like I just don't get that.
no, yeah. Again, 30-27 is not correct for this fight. But yeah, so two things there. One, yes, you definitely called that correctly, and I'm glad that we had that exchange about the antics on the previous episode. Arnold Allen did the exact right thing. He did not waver to any of that. He did not go for the handshaking. He did get a little frustrated after that first round. John Silva went over to give him a high five after the round, or he went to give the high five, and then John Silva was not in, was keeping in that intensity mode that he is in, and then he pushed him a little bit. I was like, hey, I mean, I can understand tensions running a little bit high. You should keep that within the rounds. But either way, I do appreciate that Arnold Allen was as locked in as he was. Now, when it comes to the surfboard incident, of course, that is in round three. That was something interesting to see, of course, but probably illegal. Now, I mean, this is something that was being debated in a couple of the groups that I'm in. You are not supposed to land any type of contact to the spine or spinal region. Putting both of your feet on someone's back and jumping off of it is contact to the spine. If you saw where his feet landed, he was not on his side. It's like he was literally on his back. That's the only way he could have jumped off that way. So I would say I would class that as an illegal move. That's number one. Number two, the only other time that I've seen anything like that, now granted the circumstances were much different, but Paul Daly jumped off of the back of an opponent that he was had fought. Now the fight was over at the time, and this is why he ended up getting the repercussions that he got. But he ended up getting kicked out of the UFC over that. So now, like I said, this was in competition, a little bit different. But I do think that there should be some acknowledgement that that was not a legal maneuver what he did.
No, we're not going to acknowledge it at all because why would we? John Silva's the guy who barks, and now he can play off the fact that he's autistic a little more. So
And that is also leads me to the point that I had too. I said this Silva's stick is getting kind of played out at this point. The ridiculous intensity, and then right up to the decision, he's holding that, and then immediately he's crying and he's best friends. And you make me so much better. And then the barking and the crying over the belt with his wife, and it's like you're getting a little exhausting, John Silva, I would say.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think, notes after three, after however many years it's been for Arnold Allen since he's fought, for him to hop off the couch, come in here against a very scary opponent. I think he put up listen. Arnold Allen, he put on the people forgot man performance. I think this was a very good performance. I'm excited to see him again. Every time he fights, again, same thing with Nathaniel Wood. I mean, they come to scrap. They're here for a fight. They don't really dominantly beat people because that's just not their fighting style. They want to have a fight, and if it's close, that's fine. But like, I would really like the judges to reflect that. 30-27. We're going to talk about this, maybe with this next fight with the judging, but like, I just genuinely think that you don't even watch the fight if you gave both all 3 rounds is crazy though. Like,
No, yeah, it absolutely is. No, I agree entirely. Yeah, no, and you're right. I mean, Arnold Allen, to your point, like you said, he is a scrapper. Like he's one of
yeah.
those dudes that goes in there. He like you called it exactly right in that same conversation about the antics, where you're like, he's going to go in there, he's going to face first into some heavy adversity and just take all of it, give it back as he can. I thought he did a great job in this fight. It definitely reminded me, like you said, it's a comeback from remember who I am kind of fight. He reminded me. I was like, okay, yeah, dude, he is a person to watch and an entertaining fighter and someone who puts it all on the line. So I give him a lot of credit for that. I agree 30-27 was not the correct call from that one judge. I was not upset with the overall outcome. I do think that Silva won the first and the third. Personally, it was the head kicks in the third round that did it for Silva there. The second round, knees were very sharp for Allen. I wish you would just use that more often. Just go straight tie clinch people, bro. Just get in there and just bang knees, dude.
Yeah, no, I definitely listen. This was a good fight. The antics are getting a little too much. The illegality of the move again. It's John Silva. Nothing's gonna happen. Nobody even bats an eye about it. But I listen. That's some shit that I don't want to see in my UFC. I mean, this is
Right.
the highest level of mixed martial arts. If you could stand on his back and do a surfboard, mate, you could have kicked him in the fucking stomach. Like, do something that makes me think like, man, he fucking whooped him. Not, oh, he rode him like a surfboard, because that doesn't win the round for me. I mean, if you're gonna be doing these antics, mate, you better have whooped his fucking ass. Like,
Right.
if you get the middle finger TKO, fine, good deal. But
Yeah.
if it's a close fight that I don't even think you won, and you're doing all this fucking happy go lucky shit, celebrating, like, mate, wait for the judges to write it out, and then we'll see if you fucking won.
For sure. No, absolutely. And that's I wanted to say that's the type of thing that separates a person like Marab when Marab is having a good time in there. Because we say, oh, Marab is always having fun. He's smiling, he's doing his emotes, he's kissing O'Malley's back, all this kind of stuff. The difference there is that Marab is ragdolling his opponents through most, if not all, of the fight and doing that on top of it. This was a very close fight that had an emoting element to it when, like, just what you described. I mean, like, there was a little bit of closeness to everything, to the point where it's like, maybe you should be a little bit less confident that you're, that far up and that far ahead on the scorecards, even if it did turn out his way in the end.
I don't know. This is for the chat maybe to decide. Is it better or worse that John Silva does not seem humbled by the last performance? He came in here with the same intensity, with the same level of confidence. Do you think that is good for him? I mean, and if it is, he ended up not finishing his fight. He ended up going to decision, which is a downgrade from where, his career trajectory is supposed to be going. Obviously, he just got finished, nice little comeback win, but uh, is it good that he continues to still be this confident, kind of arrogant character, or do you really think it's going to be because me personally, he's not learning shit. He's going to come out here and think he's the fucking man because he just got a 3-round decision over Arnold Allen that was a lot closer than I think he believes it was. So next performance, when he gets somebody, listen, Diego Lopez finishing you is the least of your problems at this point, buddy. I mean, you're in a division full of people that can finish. So I don't know.
No, true. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that you're really on the money with the lack of learning from these fights, like gaining fight IQ out of any of this stuff. Like, he has a locked in version of himself in his mind, whether it is autism, if that's, I don't know how much of that's a meme or how much of that is actually true. Either way, whatever the reasoning is, he has a definitive presentation of himself and a version of how he presents and acts in fights that I think it's going to either take a ridiculously bad downfall to get to him, or even then it still might not take. So
Mhm.
this just might be, what you see is what you get. That authenticity is good. It's like what Hydra's saying, confidence is good, antics are not. I would say in a similar vein, authenticity is good. This is a little bit more than authenticity at this point, or maybe it's authenticity to a fault.
Yeah, I'll bring it up because it is a talking point that I think is worth noting. I brought up in the Discord the movie The Ringer, starring Johnny Knoxville. There's a specific scene in there where the disabled guys they know that he's not one of them. You are not autistic. You are not mentally disabled, whatever the case may be. They know that he's not. I don't know what it says about me, but I look at John Silva and I see all the antics and I see the autism stuff, and I'm like, I don't know if you're one of them, like,
Ah,
I don't know.
you're that's gonna be a clip that's gonna be for the cancellation of last
Maybe.
week's fights. Chase is an ableist.
Well,
No, I don't know. I don't look. It's autism is a spectrum. There are very severe cases. There are very mild cases. That's why they call it a spectrum. I am not here to say yes or no on that. And I
I think it's a little too much. That's all that I'm saying.
that's I think the better point of it is really it's besides the point to me, because you
True.
can you obviously you're high enough functioning autistic, if you are autistic, to be fighting in the highest most prestigious fight promotion in the world. So obviously you have people around you that can also be helping with your the way that you present yourself, all of these things. Like, just it's not autism is not something that you fall back on as like a crutch. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can still present and be within the framework of what you're involved with.
I am also thinking back to the point that he was on Twitter and, the whole Zionist thing, obviously another political thing that I'm not trying to get too deep into, but he
Sure.
his out is, it's a language barrier. I don't really know what I'm saying. I don't know. You guys mistook it. Does he know that autism means mentally, like, something on the spectrum kind of deal, like, or is he just saying it like it's a cool word? Like, do we know? Like, I don't know. Is that his going to be his out? Like, oh, I didn't know that. I thought it just meant two cool dudes were gonna fight, Like, I don't know.
You the language barrier being the thing when it comes to the autism would be a really, really funny revelation if he tried to go that route. But
I'm just saying, guys, we don't know. I mean, he didn't know that he was being some sort of way about other things, Who's to say he doesn't know this time, or if he's gonna pretend that he doesn't know. I don't know. That's all
yeah,
that
I
I'm
mean,
saying.
I guess that's the big takeaway, is perhaps John Silva is a case of when aura farming goes horribly wrong, if this is all of the possibilities here. But I guess time will tell. We'll have to see how he continues on forward. Right now, I think the win certainly will keep him in the same mindset for now, and it's going to take the things that I talked about earlier to see if any of that changes, if it ever
But
is going to.
and so to Hydra's comment, am I wrong to think that that is a possibility? So I thought autism meant silly guy. My bad. Like,
I don't know. Like, again, I can't say. It's hard. It's hard to know the truth of the matter. How about this? He responded to someone about the Zionism issue on Twitter. Maybe somebody go and ask him and see what he says.
true, true, true.
You define autism to us, John Silva,
There
and
we
then
go.
we'll figure it out.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Everything
All
gets
right.
defined every day. We learn new information every single day.
Constant vetting process, as indeed. So yes. All right. Well, either way though, a win's a win over here for him. I think that this was an okay conclusion, 30-27 at side. And shout out to Arnold Allen for a good performance.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that takes us to the next fight here. What some people said could have been the featured prelim, but we can talk about the differences maybe. This is Natalia Silva versus Rose Namajunas. This was an interesting one to me because I was very confident on the watch along as to how I thought that this fight was being scored. Rewatched it, saw a couple of things maybe that I wasn't considering, but overall, I still think that there maybe is a perception of this fight that is a little different from what I thought. So go ahead and give your thoughts on this, Chase.
My thoughts, when I'm watching this fight, I see Rose do exactly what she's done in every other one of her fights, that she's magically walked away with a W. And I'm not going to argue and say that she's won those fights, in my opinion. There's fights that I thought she's lost and she's walked away with 30-27s from two fucking judges. It doesn't make sense to me. But the way that I watched this fight, Rose was doing everything that she has done in every one of her previous performances where she gets these fucking nods from the judges. So when I go into the third round and I see all the Twitter boards on the bottom left and they're saying 2-0 Rose, 2-0 Rose, I'm sitting here thinking like, yeah, I mean, that's probably likely. I mean, I haven't seen her do anything that makes me think, damn, Rose has fucking lost it. So I don't know what the case may be, but I'm watching this and I'm seeing Rose be Rose. It didn't look like an off night for Rose. This looked like Rose kind of in the zone. Now, when I get to the scoring and I figure out she fucking lost 29-28, I'm sitting here confused because, like, what was I watching? Because Natalia Silva didn't do anything better than any of the opponents that Rose has beat previously. I mean, she had some good hips. I'll tell you that. She moved her hips very, very well. Shout out Natalia Silva. She knows how to salsa her way into a fight.
True.
But Rose, in my opinion, now I can't tell you how or I can't tell you why. I'm not going to say I remember everything from this fight because it fucking was bad. But I thought Rose won at least the first two rounds. I thought it was easy.
Well, okay, so let me get into the little bit of the breakdown here. So I said that Rose took the second round handily. I thought that was very clearly her round. She was in control of everything, got to the ground for a while there. She was on the ground on top. I thought that was a pretty clear-cut round for her. And then Silva, I thought, took the third round very handily. She turned up the striking in a major way at that point, more so than she had throughout the entirety of the fight. So if those two rounds are solid for either fighter, then it would be 1-1, with the first round being the one that would be the decider of all of this. In that first round, both of them were whiffing a lot of shots. They were both extremely cautious in that first round. The thing I will say is that if you watch it with the fight on mute, I think that it puts it into a little bit more perspective, because the commentary glaze for Rose was ridiculous in this fight. I mean, it was like, she's a former champion. She's got all the striking. This is her type of fight. So there was one point where Anik actually had said that Silva didn't land the left hand in the first round. He was like, oh, came dangerously close with that left. She did land it. So I'm saying, like, I'm not saying that they were intentionally trying to make it out like Rose had won that round or sway the opinions of people. They were watching the same fight that we were, and they're reacting in real time too. But I'm just saying that, like, on the rewatch, there were moments for Rose in that first round. I think it was a very even round overall. But that being said, if it is a very even round and the sport is the optics of it, I thought that the look to me was that Natalia Silva took it. I think at very best, I could say it being a draw, with the last two being what they were, and that being an extremely close. I think if you really tally it up, it was almost a dead heat. So I'm not mad at this decision, even if I think that there is some debatability about the first round and who it went to.
I just think it's genuinely impressive that they found the prospect that they finally want to get over on Rose. There have been plenty of other opportunities. Miranda Maverick was not the one. I thought she won that fight on a bum knee, but that's just my opinion. Natalia Silva skated by here, and she is going on to fight for the title next. That has been confirmed basically. So what do you have
Is
to say
that
about it? Oh yeah,
yeah,
oh
that's
yeah.
100% confirmed.
I mean that's what she's been told. So
Okay. All right. Well,
whatever that means to you.
what it means to me is that she's the next victim of the champ is really what I think that comes down to. Because what this would be Val.
Valentina.
Yeah, then yeah, come on, dude, give me a break. No, did she win this fight? I thought that, again, it was very close because of that first round. I'm not mad at the decision. Her going on for a title after this, what I said before this in the last episode that we did is that I feel like Natalia Silva has not been tested the way that she needs to be tested in the UFC. I don't think that Rose did it either. I think that Rose did pretty much the same thing that Alexa Grasso did to an extent, and every other one of her opponents, which is give her too much respect. Go in there and get your hands on this woman and take her down and smother her like she did it in the second round. Why
True.
couldn't you have just made that a 3-rounder?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, this was, like I said, not the greatest fight, not the greatest performance for either woman, but we do have a new contender and we have a fresh matchup for the division. So I guess that's really all that we can say.
Yeah, and look, when it comes to Val, like, granted, time marches on. There's going to be a point where she's not going to, we obviously, she went through it with Alexa Grasso. There's going to be a time where, time comes for her. I don't know if it is now, and I don't know if it's with Natalia Silva. So if she does happen to be the person that ends up being that thing for Val at the time that she is fighting, then okay. But I just don't see it. I mean, I cannot see it until I actually do see it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah, Silva, she's got a little confidence. She said that she was going to beat Rose and she was going to go beat Val and go take the title. I don't know if it's misplaced. I mean, she won another fight. This is like 13 in a row or whatever for or whatever the case may be. I If she beats Val, I'm not going to lie to you guys. She might be champ for a little bit. I mean, if she can get past Val with this style, there's no other person. I mean, she already got past Rose, and what else is there to say? Rose has all the tools to be able to beat her, and she didn't. So if Val
True.
can't do it, Silva might have this belt for a little bit, is what I'll say, because we don't have no hard nosed wrestlers in flyweights that'll just fucking dog her out and just take her down. And, it's just, I don't know, man. This is just rough.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to the exact same point that we made on the State of the Rankings episode, saying that now is potentially one of the best times to be an elite mixed martial artist if you are a woman. Go in there and get four wins in a row could put you into a serious conversation based on what we are currently seeing out of most of the divisions.
Absolutely.
So, whatever. Anyway, all right. Well, that was that one. Let's move on to an even weirder one here. This is Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Derek Lewis. I mean, questions abound with this fight, I suppose. I want to give at least a brief mention to Vampiric Legs, big creator on the platform, of course, who his tweet, I mean, like, I think it was a little hyperbolic, but he did say something along the lines of, I guess people forgot that Derek Lewis is 40 and that all of his wins are kind of fluky and, he never really takes his fight seriously. I don't wouldn't go that far. But what I will say, at least to start this conversation off, is right here, right now, I will never be, not that I was in this fight, but just for going forward, I will never be duped by this conversation that always seems to happen when Derek Lewis is leading up to fights, where all of a sudden Derek Lewis is taking his fight seriously. He's in the best shape of his life. Derek Lewis has abs now, guys. He came into this fight looking as blobby as he ever did and slower than he ever has. So I'm just saying that out right now, that, that don't be fooled by any of the pre-fight stuff when it comes to Lewis. Aside from that, give me your impressions of what happened here.
Well, the impressions that happened was the first round, they did nothing. The second round, they did nothing up until 3 minutes and 10 seconds, where Derek Lewis decided to lay on his back and turn over to his stomach and just basically tell Waldo to finish him. There really wasn't anything to talk about in this fight because they didn't actually fight each other. Waldo was too quick. Derek Lewis, like you said, way too slow, way too blob like. And Waldo is, he actually is very elusive for a striker at heavyweight. And it sucks that he didn't actually take risks to, like, counter and, fucking, bop Derek up. But he waited until the second round, up until when we all knew Derek Lewis is least likely to do anything, is, even after the first 30 seconds, least likely to do anything, but get him out the first round. And, I actually think I said that pretty well. Waldo should be able to get into the second round. And I think that's when he would go for the finish. Now, did I expect Derek Lewis to do what he did? No. But can you really expect the unexpected? This guy, he got jabbed, as you think, until you see the replay, and then he falls to his butt and he lays there. Waldo walks to his side. Derek Lewis does nothing until Waldo gets his fist on his face. Derek Lewis again turns over to his stomach and covers up, and the fight is over.
Yeah.
So
Well, so yeah, I mean, just to go through the lead up, there was a little bit that happened here, but not much. Like you said, it was not an overly eventful fight. Lewis was very kick heavy early in this fight, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I don't know where that was coming from, but I think it may just be the fact that he knew that Waldo was going to be quicker than him, so I guess he was just trying to catch him with some kicks early. Whatever the case was, he landed a couple of them, but they weren't really all that impactful to change the course of anything. But it was right around the time in the first round where Waldo caught one of those kicks and Derek went down to his back and stayed down. And I thought, ooh, this is not going to go well. This is not looking good already. This is round one. Derek Lewis is sweating profusely. Now, of course, we know that Derek Lewis, as a big guy, he does sweat a lot. And so that's,
his balls get hot, dude.
very much so. That is absolutely true. Something I said on the watch along as well. But it wasn't about that, though. That's not what it was. It was the fact that he stayed on his back and just allowed whatever Waldo wanted to do on the feet happen. That was what really spoke more to me, is that it's like, it's okay that you're getting a little tired or whatever. You have the time between rounds to try to recover. You're trying to do whatever you can with a faster opponent. I get that, but you got to be in the fight. It just feels, if you're on your back at this stage of the fight, round one, we're talking about here, this is not a good look. So there was that. Then, of course, you end up with, Waldo starting with the jabs, and the jabs were working for him because he is so much faster. He was really catching him when he was at a slower point, hitting the jab, and then moving, stick and move. I thought it was a fine strategy, and it was certainly working for him. But then, of course, you get to the finish, and like you said, the lightest of jabs imaginable just barely boops the snoot of Derek Lewis, taps him on the nose, if that. Like you said, the replay shows otherwise, but if that, just a whiff of the jab gets him on the face, he slips essentially and goes down. And then Waldo, if you saw the replay, Waldo motions for him to get back up. He says, "Hey, come on." And he just doesn't. He intentionally chooses not to. So Waldo, I say that Waldo floated down. He literally just just like kind of floated himself down on one knee, kneels down, and just starts banging at the side of his head until Herzog stops the fight. I was like, Christ almighty. I was kind of perplexed by everything I was watching here, just by the nature of all of those details.
Yeah. No, I mean, we talked about Figgy and the ability of him to be able to throw these fights. I mean, Derek Lewis, if talking about coming in here for a paycheck after a first round, I mean, you got to expect it at this point. Not that it's like, oh, he would come in for your money, but like, bro, he's a long tenured kind of guy. He gets paid so fucking much to come in these fucking fights. He's gonna be on the White House.
Well,
He has nothing to fucking lose. He's just gonna go in here and do whatever the fuck he wants to get a paycheck. Like it's just what he does,
Well,
unfortunately.
no, I was going to say that though. You're right. He's saying in the pre-fight, oh, if the president wants me on the White House, I'll be on the White House. I mean, like I would think after something like this, does that put that in jeopardy? I would suspect so.
Not he's his favorite fighter. So
After bro, Colby Covington was his favorite fighter until he got his ass starched.
true. I mean, we will definitely see. But Derek Lewis, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was not surprised at what I saw. I yeah, Waldo Acosta, Waldo Cortez Acosta is, and believe me or not, he has to keep up his fight activity. But I think we are currently seeing what could be kind of the next Derek Lewis in the making here. I mean, Waldo could be just coming out here and finishing people. It may be a little fluky like this, but if he keeps taking fight and he keeps sticking around the middle of the road, he can start finishing anybody and everybody that he wants at this point.
No, I think you're making a great point there. Who knows if where his cap off is. We'll have to see what happens if he does finally get himself into a legitimate title picture. But he's certainly gunning for it. He is certainly active. So got to give him credit on all of those fronts. And if he is finishing his fights, then yep, more power to him. Shout out to the Dominican. You know what I'm saying? Got to love it. What I said about Derek Lewis on the other side, though, is that this is a performance that was very reminiscent of the Derek Lewis when he was on his losing streak. If you recall, there was that multiple fight losing streak. I think it was like a 3-fight losing streak. Then he had one win and then another loss. And it was just, he was very checkerboard at that point with the prolonged losing streak. That was the time when they were asking Dana at the post fights, what's going to happen with Derek Lewis. And he was just like, if he wants to stick around, he can stick around. He knows he's a fan favorite. Obviously he was going to stay around, but like, the version of what we saw with Derek Lewis coming out with the flying knee against Rodrigo,
Delima.
Yeah, Delima, exactly. I mean, like something like that. This is the opposite version of that, and that can only happen with an opponent like Delima. So it's like we're getting into a different territory, and I'm just hoping that Lewis is not backsliding so far with that. But it very well could be. The man is 40 years old at this point. Like all things must end.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. I mean, Derek Lewis is in prime position to fight Shamil Gaziev next, is basically what it comes down to. At the White House, probably.
Okay. Hey, look, again, if they're going to end up putting him on the White House regardless, then okay. I just don't know how you could put him on the White House card with this as the previous performance. I think that it would be a very, like, for the general public who's not fight people, okay, but for the fight community watching the White House card, I think it almost adds a stain to the White House card. And look, it's Derek Lewis. I know he's a fan favorite. I like Derek Lewis. I'm not trying to say that him being on the card is a bad thing, but after this being the performance and what we saw here, I mean, it wouldn't be the greatest look in my opinion.
I think it's the same thing as with like a Kevin Holland or whatever. I mean, you got to take what you can get. You're not going to always get a great performance. Sometimes you get a performance that seems a little phoned in. Some maybe a little more than others, like this, but I think Derek Lewis is in a position where that you potentially could have a round one knockout with him, or you potentially could have somebody else finish him because he just gives up. So either way, you're getting an interesting situation out of the fight that is going to bring some sort of conversation. I have people that are from Texas that are talking like, "Did you see Derek Lewis last night?" It's like, yeah, he looks like a fucking loser. Whatever you want to say. Like, interesting enough, like we're talking about it, and Derek Lewis, I think the door is open for anything. You know, he's a Hall of Famer. I know people don't want to accept it. Most knockouts in the organization, does what heavyweights do best. You can't deny that the UFC and fight fans, fight casuals across the world love heavyweights, and you know that's what they want to see sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you do make a good point. You know, we talk it through. He's a name. He's a name for at least a decent amount of people outside of the hardcore fans. I understand the thought process at least.
Yeah,
But again, you know, we as fight people, we will remember. You
true.
know. All right. So, anything else on this one?
Nope, this was pitiful, unfortunately.
Shout out to Waldo. You know,
Yeah, no, for sure.
well, actually, the only last thing I will say is that I do respect Waldo for calling out Curtis Blades as opposed to just continuing down the Aspinall line of thought, which, you know, he could have done the Aspinall call out again and that still would have been fine. But I think that that is a very reasonable call out of Curtis Blades. I thought that that was perfect.
I actually agree with you a lot. That was a very good call out from Watto.
Yeah, so good deal there. And before we move on, of course, I got to give another shout out to the chat. Lachlan coming in. Appreciate you, brother. And Jesse Dunaway. Appreciate you as well, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Shout out Hydro one more time. You've been
Oh,
rocking with us for a little bit, my man.
always, bro. Always. That's a given.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about the co-main event of this card. This
Speaking of a
is,
given,
yeah, I guess. I mean, to an extent, we'll talk about it. Is Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong. What I said about this is actually that it was the very similar circumstances as I saw it to the Natalia Silva and Rose Namajunas fight. Honestly, like the way that this fight played out, if you go through the dynamics of it, one round pretty definitive for each guy, and then that first round being the thing that might be a little bit of the decision maker and a little bit closer than maybe some people might be giving it credit for. Perhaps your thoughts.
I think Sean really let me down in this performance. I think this performance solidified that he is one of these champions that is just holding the belt for the real champion to come along, you know, like a Leon Edwards, you know, like you can hold on to it for a little bit, but like when the guy comes along that actually is deserving of the belt, you know, they will get their hands on it. You know, it wasn't JDM, of course, you know, but Islam eventually came around to it. You know, some people they get the belt and you know they have one good performance. You know, it builds their confidence. They've already had so much confidence in themselves because they had this magical ride all the way to the belt. They get one fucking defense that they pan pick a performance of, and then they get an automatic fucking an immediate rematch after they lose after they defend the belt one time. I mean, it's not my fault for believing that Sean O'Malley was more than he is because the organization had a lot of stock in this dude, and they put a lot of stock in good fighters sometimes. It's unfortunate that Sean O'Malley just is one of the run of the mill champs that is gonna not he's gonna be forgotten. You know, there's people out there, you know, that have been champs and Luke Rockhold, you know, like he gets the belt and he has this utmost confidence that he's the best in the world, that he's so fucking good, and then on days notice gets destroyed by Bisping or whatever the fucking case may be. You know, like Sean O'Malley is in this, you know, he's in this humble state, right? Like he's so humble, like he looks down on all these people. Like I'm I'm gracing them with my performance. You know, I have to go easy on them kind of deal is what I get out of Sean because I just truly don't see him having this killer instinct anymore because I truly believe if he would have done what he did in round 3 to Song Yudong at the beginning of the fight, probably could have finished him, but he was fucking around the entire time.
Yeah, no, well, it's an interesting way to look at it for sure. I mean, a lot to unpack with all of that. I agree with the general sentiment, and of course, I'm not saying this to you, Chase. I'm more saying it to the universe. Hate to say I told you so when it came to O'Malley, because I have been saying this exact thing, basically all of what you outlined since he became champ. You know, the Cheeto, I called it a vanity fight, the Cheeto rematch, and all of what you've seen past that leads right to where we are right now if you trace the lineage through his fights. So I think that it all is tracking. What I said about this fight specifically is round 1 was a lot of hopping on both sides. You know, it was definitely yeah, a lot of whiffing and a lot of looks, but not a lot of actual action. And watching it back, I thought that there was actually a decent case for Song winning the round. I mean, like, not saying that I thought that it was the case, and in the watch along, I definitely did not. So I'm not mad that O'Malley won this fight. But my point in saying this is exactly going to what you're saying about if the O'Malley of round 3 had made this a 3-rounder of that, then this would be a completely different conversation. If you are he said champion mindset in his post-fight interview. If you are a champion mindset, that should have been the case. This was a a fight that was picked for you to give you the opportunity to show that the level that you are above all of these people. If I am sitting here and saying that there is even debatability about that first round and you lost the second round, then what are you how can I take away that you have a champion mindset and that you are the rightful champion and that you deserve, you're calling out Piotr Jan the champ now for a rematch? Give me a break with all of this, dude.
Yeah, no, this one was definitely not the performance that I was expecting to see out of Sean. Once again, I just really think he let me down. I think Lachlan even said it best. It was a close fight, but Sean didn't get me excited to see him again. I mean, why would he think anybody wants to see him on the White House? And I know that's like, it's a standard. Like, who cares? Like, why would they? At the end of the day, as a professional fighter, who cares if I'm on the White House or whatever? But like, it's a big deal as of right now in the UFC for you to be a big market kind of guy. That's your goal, to be on the White House. And Sean O'Malley has this idea that he's so good. He's so popular that he's going to be on the White House no matter what. It can be Peter, it can be Umar. We can do Sean. You are losing stock as we speak because you just aren't you're not listen, some people they get these money fights by talking sometimes, and I think Sean O'Malley is becoming one of these people, and I know that's crazy to say becoming because he's always been that way, but at this point he's not backing it up anymore. Losing to Marab, fine, injury, whatever. Getting sub by Marab, yikes, worse. Now you're on the decline and you get some unanimous decision against Song, which arguably people are saying you might have lost. Like, brother, there's no reason for you to have this mindset that it's kind of hard to explain. I know it's humble, but it doesn't feel sincere humble. Like, it's as if he's better than everybody still. And I don't know if that's just something that I'm catching out of it, but it truly just feels like he's too calm and collected that he doesn't even pay the time to these people.
Yeah,
Like,
it's like a false humbleness. Is that,
right.
yeah, like he's got more I realize that I lost, so I have to be humble, but I'm still better, is what his mindset seems to be. And it's like, you're not living up to that. And that, again, this was the exact fight that was supposed to be what got you back to being able to say that confidently. But again, and I'm not saying that he lost this fight. I think that I thought he won that first round in the moment, and watching it back, I think that he did enough to win that round based on what was actually happening in the fight. But if this is the conversation, then you don't get to be that guy anymore.
Yeah.
You don't get to be the guy that has that as your outlook and the way that you present and carry yourself. People are saying that oh, is he going to be on the White House? I said that based on that performance, he has to fight Corey Sandhagen. That's, I saw that in the chat as well. We talked about it on the watch along. That is the fight to make right now, based on what we saw here. To give him an immediate shot at the title again, this is ridiculous if that ends up happening. And Piotr Jan would eat him alive based on the performance that we saw.
I think what will we say here? Oh yeah, Hydra. All I've ever wanted to see is still Corey and Sean. It's like, it's funny because Sean even came out and said, "I'll fight Corey if you pay me the exact same that you were going to pay me to fight for the title." It's like, here we go again. It goes back to the original point that I was making about these fighters apparently never wanted to fight until $25,000 on the line. Sean O'Malley had his opportunity to make that bonus right here. Now you want to talk about money against Corey, brother? You could have had the money right here, but you didn't want to fucking perform.
Yeah, well, and to think that you are demanding that amount of money based on what we are seeing, to me, it's just like, how the sport works, how the mindset of the organization works sometimes. That if you are a big enough name, then you demand that regardless to them. And it's really a perceptional thing. The sport is all optics, and we know it. So maybe that's a bargaining tactic. It's like, you see what I do out there, and how much of a fan base I have. The reality, and if the organization is listening, they should really be hearing this. The reality of the boots on the ground and the fan base is, it is not the same anymore. His stock has dropped with the fan base to the point that he cannot demand this. So if you feed into that, then that's your fault for feeding into it. It's not our fault.
True, 100%. Yeah, no, this one is. I just can't believe this is what Sean O'Malley has succumbed to, because I truly believed before this fight, before I saw him fight this way, I truly believe like we were gonna see the performance that people forgot, like, that Sean could put on, and he truly did not. I mean, 67 strikes. Are you dead ass right now? You're not volume. You're not power. You damn near didn't fucking. It's funny to me. again, Sean gets taken down and he's sitting in his guard for hella fucking long. This was another thing. He got taken down and did nothing. He goes for like one single triangle fucking, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. Everybody's going to start boasting that Sean's got grappling again because he got that one submission grappling win against some Japanese guy in a grappling tournament. Like, it's crazy to me that people would still ride on this, but once again, it's proven that it's just one of these false narratives. People, he's got grappling. He's got grappling. He was on the ground in this dude's car.
And
I
not
mean,
only that, he's doing the whole emoting thing to an extent where he's like, okay, well, we're down here now. What are we gonna do?
dude,
What are we gonna how about you do something?
that really made me mad because he got taken down and he's immediately going,
Yeah.
it's like, what are you talking about? You
Eh,
literally just got to the mat and you're already doing nothing but looking to the ref. And he wasn't even looking to his ref. He's looking to his coaches like, what do you, he, they're
yeah.
fucking stupid. He's taking
Hey,
me down. We
well,
can't
he's like
fight.
he's trying to play the Carlos Protest, where it's like, oh yeah, okay, I guess we're just doing this, huh? I guess we're just doing this. It's like, yeah, but then Carlos Protest turned it around and knocked him out. So it's like,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? What did you do? Nothing.
Yeah, no, this one was definitely not a great performance from Sean, and this is from somebody who I had a lot of hope for him. I had a lot of hope for him. In Hydra, I thought he would repeatedly land that knee on Song. It's not even just the knee. He didn't set up like Sean's got a really good teep kick. He's got really good kicks. He's got really good range with the strikes, and didn't he just didn't unload. The third round he started to, but it's like way too late. I mean, again, I say way too late as if he didn't fucking win, but like, brother, finish these fucking fights, bro. You want to talk about money? You had it. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What I said is that the bloom is off of the Sean O'Malley rose completely at this point. I mean, because this was supposed to be the fight that proved all of what we said on the last episode. You get wrestled around, you get submitted by Marab. All of what Marab brings to the table is nothing like what Song brings to the table. You have the opportunity here to have a fresh slate, basically. Song is the exact opponent to have the performance that you were known for and wanted to have, and then this is what we got out of it. That's it.
I'm gonna bring up the last thing that's really important. We often talk about ticks and rhythms that fighters have that are nuisances. Dustin's got his hair flip, whatever. Or he pulls his shorts up. Sean O'Malley, and I'm serious, and I'm not trying to make a joke. Like, this dude genuinely makes me curious if he has crabs or something, because it is so often in the fight he's got his hands in his fucking shorts adjusting his fucking jock strap. Like, it's consistently in the fight. Like, I don't
Hmm.
get why he does that so much. Like, at first he would do it and then it's cool because like his hands would be really quick and then he'd light the dude up. It's like, but now it's like, dude, I'm tired of seeing you adjust your fucking shorts because you're doing nothing but standing there adjusting your fucking shorts. Like,
I didn't pick up on that. I'll have
he
to,
does it every fucking fight.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I'll have to
crazy.
keep an eye out next time for that. But either way, yeah. I mean, keep your hands off your nuts and put them into your opponent's face, I think is the ultimate, ultimate takeaway there, huh?
It's just crazy, man. I've lost it all for Sean O'Malley. So I appreciate everybody who got to watch that fight because it was a snoozer as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it had its select moments. The knee that he did land was a nice connection. Good solid connection with the knee on Song's level change. He did take that round, but too little, too late in the sense of us regaining any kind of confidence in him to be the man that he claims to be.
Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, then, all of that said takes us right into the main event of the evening. This is Justin Gaethje versus Paddy Pimblett. I mean, a lot to unpack with this fight, a whole lot that went into this. Where do you want to start, Chase?
Well, let's start by stating the facts. Justin Gaethje clearly was compromised coming into this fight. He had some sort of infection, presumably staph, and this caused him to appear very bloated going into this fight. He definitely had a tummy. It looked as if he was not able to, train as well as maybe he wanted to, is what I would say. And
Still
it
made weight, but yeah,
still made weight, and it definitely showed in the fight. He was very sluggish and he was a lot slower, and I feel like he did not utilize his legs as much as I was expecting Justin Gaethje to, who normally is a very good leg kicker. That being said, I don't know if there was ever a more clear cut discussion about how good Justin Gaethje is and how bad this fight would have been if he was healthy. Now, that being said, Paddy Pimblett is a very, very tough customer. I mean, I will give him credit for getting up as many times as he did and wearing the damage and still having a good, um, a good good attitude about it. I know he lost, and there was some moments. We'll talk about his post-fight speech and stuff. But if Justin Gaethje was healthy, and we've seen clips of, if you go back just the fight with Fiziev, the speed difference is night and day. Justin pulled out a performance that I'm going to say is one of the greatest that I've seen of all time, because when you add in the fact that he's compromised, unhealthy, when you look at what BSD was doing to Dustin Poirier, and then the immediate wall he hit with his cardio, Justin stood on his feet for 5 rounds, did not let off the gas, other than the times where he clearly was looking labored, of course. And on top of what I think was Paddy Pimblett's key to victory, and I think it was working very early on, body kicks. He was kicking the shit out of Justin's liver. And again, this goes back to how great of a performance I think this was from Justin. He took so much damage to the body early on in the fight, and for him to continue on with what he was doing, I genuinely thought like the fight could end at any moment because Paddy could just kick him right in the liver and it's done. But Justin truly this is a special performance. I'm telling you guys, this is crazy.
Yeah, this is an interesting take. This is not a take that I have heard being bantied about a whole lot. So I give you a lot of credit for the deeper analysis here. You are putting a lot of stock into the potential staph infection. So, I guess we're going to have to see how he ends up looking at full health, if that really is as much of what this performance was as you're making it seem. That's all on the Justin side. What I'd say on the other side of the coin here, I think that I agree with a lot of the general sentiment. The speed was certainly an issue for Justin. The sloppiness in some of this was, on display kind of across the board, especially as you got into the later rounds. If it's the staff, whatever, we put that to the side for just now. What I will say on the Paddy side of things, Paddy is huge. That is definitely true. It is wild for whatever reason on Wikipedia. They have Justin being taller than Paddy in their listings there. Not the case when you see them side by side. And also when Paddy cuts down, it's mind boggling to me that Paddy is able to balloon up the way that he is and then get to the shape and conditioning that he gets into in these fights, because he is huge and he is ripped when he was in there. What's up, Chase?
The key note you have to make about that specifically, he didn't just make weight, he made 154.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so he cut even further than what he should have, and it's even crazy to think about how bloated he normally is outside of camp. So
absolutely, yeah, good point there. Good addition with that. Yeah, that's definitely impressive. So you got to give Paddy a whole lot of credit for that. He is definitely, he gets himself into tremendous shape. His striking is so awkward and not in a good way.
Yeah.
That is what I really took away from a lot of this. And for whatever reason, the only thing I can think of is yet another similar to Bilal, and we talked about that a little bit in the Discord, similar to Bilal versus JDM. This looked to me like a person who was saying, you all think that I can't sit here and strike with the best of the best. I'll show you. And you saw what happened here. Paddy, this is a delusion if he thought that he was going to be able to stand and bang with Justin like on a good day. But like with what he was bringing to the table with this, Paddy's hands low, always at all times, hands low, chin out, tremendous defense, let me tell you, with all of what I was seeing off of that. And then on top of it, to defy and deny his corner was begging him between rounds to level change. You got to go for at least a single leg, dude. Please. It got to that point where you heard these guys really trying to break through to him. You have to level change, and he just would not do it. And then finally in the 5th round, all of a sudden he decides to try. Give me a break with that element of it. I thought that this was a very poorly navigated fight for Paddy Pimblett, who was trying to make a statement that he was not qualified to make.
I think a lot of people maybe are jumping off the Paddy Pimblett train. If anything, I think they should all be jumping on the stock now. I mean, this guy, I know he got dropped. They said 2 in the rewatch. It was 4, guys.
Yeah, I would say at least 3.
Yeah, I listen. Paddy Pimblett showed incredible heart. I'll give him that. And listen, he I think it's hard to say that I'm mad at the performance. I know he tried to stand with the best. He tried. And hopefully this is the performance that humbles him enough where he doesn't end up like Sean O'Malley and some other fighters where he thinks he's on top of the world, still just had an off night or something. But he was able to go 5 rounds. The thing with the cut, he is very large, he cuts down. He was able to make 5 rounds fair to him. getting beat up by Justin on the feet, it's not as bad as it seems, guys. It was just poor game planning, and I think if he actually listens to his coaches and actually comes out with a game plan that's going to win the fight, he can still have an upside. But I think again, major miscalculation for him to not listen to his coaches. But shout out one more time to Mank. I mean, you cannot stand with Justin Gaethje, guys. Like he's one of the greatest strikers in the UFC history. And he really showed it. On an off night, Justin Gaethje can put up 200 strikes, drop you 4 different times. And we'll talk about the drops. I mean, they weren't necessarily the craziest things, but they were definitely shots that landed and Patty fell to them. The first one in the first round was crazy. It's like, "Oh my god, no way, this short uppercut drops you to your butt." He gets him up, pounds on him a little more. The second drop with the eye poke, we definitely got to talk about that because
Yeah, well, I was going to bring up the fouls, of course.
well, there was definitely a lot of fouls. Specifically the one drop where he pokes him in the eye. I don't get how people are mad at Justin for that. I mean, I listen, if you want to say he was trying to punch him in the eye, fair. I mean, I can see that. He definitely aimed right for his eye. But for people to think that he opened his thumb, like I don't see that as the possibility. I think he had a closed fist and the finger got caught on the edge of it. I still watch it in replay and I'm not sitting here thinking that he punched him like that. Like that's just not it's not physically what would happen. And
Oh, mid sentence. There we go. Hold on. Chase, a little drop.
yeah,
It's
we
a,
good.
a drop of Patty and a drop of Chase. You're back. Yes.
But yeah, so yeah, I don't think Justin intentionally did anything on that punch, but that is not to say that he wasn't sticking his hands out and raking Patty multiple different times during the fight. That specific knockdown, I would say clean, fist was closed. All the other times that he raked Patty in the eye and stuck his fingers in his face, those were definitely dirty. But this was in a fashion of a fight. If things get dirty, you gotta have another way to counter that. Patty got his knees to the groin. He gave him a couple. I think Justin also gave him a knee to the groin that didn't get called, unfortunately. Patty Patty is so tough that there was a lot of things that didn't go right in his way, and he still was able to finish the fight. And I think when you look at the champion of the heavyweight division, these are what you were wanting to see out of him. You were wanting to see what you saw out of Patty here. But in the first round, you see Patty complain, and he's doing his little and it's like, please don't fucking do it. Please don't fucking do it. Then he gets poked in the eye with with the knockdown, and his eyes all fucked up. But then, it's in the heat of the moment, Justin smashing his face. You got to just play on, dude. Like you can't sit here and cry to the fucking ref every time. And I know it was an eye poke. I get it. But he moved on, played on, and he was able to fight through it. Then he gets kneed below the belt, and we definitely don't get a call here. Which was even this one was pretty funny because he gets kneed in the clinch, right below the belt. He makes like the grudge face, like, oh, you fucking need me in the dick, and then Justin just punches him in the face right after. So he doesn't even get the time to cry to the ref. And I'm not saying cry as in like he's being a little bitch about it. Like he truly had reason to fucking stop the fights. But the fact that it didn't, and he continued to play on and didn't make every little fucking moment about that because of what happened. He didn't even say it in the post fight speech. He didn't say, "Oh, he's a fucking dirty cheater," like he was cheating. Took all his licks, took his ass whooping. I respect that from Patty. I'm a
Yeah.
bigger fan out of him now. I'm not
Oh
gonna
yeah,
lie.
no. Look, same when it comes to that element of things. You cannot. There's no one I think that could make any kind of strong case that Patty is not a tough son of a bitch. I mean,
Yeah,
he definitely proved that. Absolutely, no doubt about that. I mean, I definitely take a little bit of issue with the description of the drop off of the thumb. It did seem to me that thumb was creeping out in a way that looked a little bit suspicious to me on the rewatch. And in the replay there, I mean, like for the thumb to come out the way that it did and then cut the eye. I mean, that's what made the cut was him ripping that skin. So there were some dirty elements. Of course, the one before that was very blatant. That was a clear raking, as you said. Those kinds of things do kind of put a little bit of an asterisk on things. Granted, Patty got kind of got his back a little bit. He got to get back off of a couple of low blows of his own. These guys were really going out there pretty sloppy in general, as we
yeah,
were seeing through a lot of this. And all of that being said, what I had said on the watch along in the moment was I was like, if Justin wins now, if he gets a knockout, that's going to put an asterisk over all of this. But then A, Patty did get the fouls back, and B, Patty was getting annihilated through the end of this fight. I mean, like this, the fouls are not great, and I do not appreciate them. And I do think that it clouds a little bit of how, good this overall performance would have been. But at the same time, Patty won one round, in my opinion, and that was even surprising based on what we were seeing here. So again, I fall back on, you're absolutely right. Patty is definitely tough. He definitely proved himself to be that, more so than I think a lot of people would have been giving him credit for based on his previous fights. But the game planning and the lack thereof, or the lack of listening to the game planning, really is my biggest takeaway here. And I just hope that he is able to step back and realize that there was a clear path to victory here for you, especially with what you're saying, especially for the fact that if Justin is as compromised as you're making it sound, then taking him to the ground could have really been the thing. I mean, like, you had so much opportunity, like, earlier on. Take the first round out of the equation. You get the flash knockdown. Okay, I got to reset here. All right, get to the stool, figure out what we need to do. Second, third round, fourth round, these are all opportunities that are all missed at this point. And really, that's my biggest note for all of this, is just it's unfortunate that Patty really was out there trying to prove something that I don't think he was going to be able to prove. When the outcome of this could have been very different, but toughness not in question.
I think it's not even just the performance itself that makes me a bigger fan of Patty. I think his post fight speech, I think, was very, very, very good. He
Yeah.
once again is putting a spotlight on men's mental health, and I think that's all very, very good. Obviously with his friends in the past that have passed away, things like this are where Patty gets to actually be human, and he's not in his fucking Patty the Batty character. And I think there was a moment at the end where he was like, "Eh, I wanted to dedicate, this performance to such and such, I didn't win, but I what does it even matter? And it's kind of like you could tell that like it meant a lot to him. Like
Oh yeah.
he wanted that he wanted to win and do all that. But like even at the end of the day, like I gave him all, guys. It's not I'm upset about it, but like we did our best kind of deal. And those moments like that I kind of respect a little more. I would rather listen to that than fucking Josh Hokett type of shit. Like
10 every day of the week, twice on Sundays for me as well. I thought, yeah, no, he is always pretty good when, I mean, at the Jared Gordon fight aside, he's when he's in that type of a mode and he's actually being genuine. He's pretty good in that regard. And obviously the stuff with men's mental health is a very serious issue that he's an advocate for. And I give him all the respect in the world for that. I don't hate the want for what he did. You know what I mean? Like I respect that, because he said, I really wanted to walk out with that belt. You could tell what it meant to him, and you could tell why he was trying to do it in the way that he was, because to him, you got to think about this as well, is that to him, this is not only beating Justin Gaethje and winning the interim title, this is also setting him up for the eventual match with Ilya. You have to be that good to be going up against him. That brings us into, how you think that Justin's going to do against Ilya. We can talk about that in a second. But my point is that I understand all of why he did what he did here. I wish for him, based on what we know and what we like about him, that it could have been different. But I think that is a little bit of a delusion now in hindsight, and it's unfortunate that it had to come out that way.
100%. Yeah, no, this one was it was definitely a good way to end the night. I think this was a great main event. But of course, Justin getting the belt and now he's on to solidify it with, Ilya. Guys, I don't know what to tell you. Ilya has destroyed all of the people that I thought had a chance, and I don't mean destroy. I mean left them unconscious in the middle of the cage. So if Justin, listen, if Eddie Alvarez gave this dude issues, my goodness, Ilya is going to butcher this guy very easily. But I doubted Justin once before, and here we are. So.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's pretty much exactly how I look at it. Short of there being some kind of crazy instance, this is the most unpredictable sport on the planet. And anything can happen. But knowing what we know and what Ilya has already done, the absolute legends that he has beaten and made it look easy, I really can't see any type of way or reality where Justin has a shot on that. It just, I mean, and I hate to say that I'm a fan as much as anybody else of Justin. I appreciate what he brings to the octagon, but Ilya sends him to the shadow realm within 2, I would say.
100%. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, all of that being said, that is UFC 324, Gaethje versus Pimblett. After we talked it through, Chase, what are your thoughts here?
This one was definitely it was a fine card to open up the Paramount event. This is not as stacked as a lot of people would, make you believe it was, going into it, but it was a fine event. The pacing was very, very bad, but the fights themselves were decent enough. There was a lot of interesting stuff going on to make us have something to talk about for a Monday.
True. And actually, just before we move on, Owen Mania coming in and asking about Patty's next fight. I think that you actually had a really good selection for that. You said in the Discord.
Shit, I don't even remember at this point, not gonna lie. What was it?
Was it Garcia? Wasn't that what
Uh
you had said? Right?
no, no, that's a different weight class.
Oh, okay. What is he fighting at?
Patty versus Hooker is definitely going to have to happen at this point. I
Oh,
would
okay.
say
Fair enough.
I would say that's going to have to be something that we're going to have to see. I mean, obviously we got to see if Dan Hooker wins or loses this weekend, but I don't think it matters. Patty is not at a point where where he stands in the division. He got kind of rocket shipped all the way through a lot of competitors that would show him different looks, and now he just lost to Gaethje over 5 rounds very convincingly. So it's kind of like, where does he actually stand? Is he going to be able to stand with strikers like if we put Max in there kind of deal, or is he going to have to go against a grappler, but either way, Charles, Dan Hooker, I think is definitely going to happen. Charles eventually should happen with Patty. BSD is another good option here.
True.
But
What is
it's
Is Garcia featherweight? Is that what it is?
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. I was like, wait a second. Oh,
No, you're
all right.
fine.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Just continue.
No, no, that's about it. I would say those are the ones that we would have to see is somebody who's going to be able to engage in his grappling and actually be able to inflict, damage in the grappling. I
True.
would like those.
I like it. Fair enough. Yeah, just to wrap it up then, this card was a little bit of an up and down, I would say. There were some, yeah, what I said on the watch along, I think does ring true here. This was a good, solid card to start the year. It was obviously very interesting based on the new broadcast deal. We had a lot to talk about with that, of course. I said that this card, you got a little bit of everything, like, many UFC events are. You got the good, the bad, and the ugly all in one. So I'm happy with it. I would probably give this one maybe like a 6.5, I would say.
Oh,
Maybe I'd know that that's not super high, but I mean, dude, we're talking Rose Namajunas versus Silva. We're talking the Umar versus Figgy here. I mean, like you gotta keep it in perspective what we actually saw out of some of these
no
fights.
Gauthier finish.
You're speaking my language right now. So yeah, I mean, like if we're just talking about the card itself, I'm as happy as you guys are that the UFC is back. You know what I mean? Like, and so
Yeah.
that might be, I think, maybe where a lot of people are coming from. We're all just happy to have fights again. But if we're looking over the pantheon of fights and what they could be, the pantheon of cards, I should say, and what they could be, yeah, I'd say that that's about right for my estimation.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I would say 6 or a 7 is probably valid.
Yeah. So there you go.
But
So.
but we will
Mhm.
have to wrap this up really quick. I have to let you guys know that there is a tally that we had for every
Oh
pick of the
yeah.
card. So if you guys want to know the total points total, it came out to 7-6, and I have 7, guys. I am out
Ah.
here on top.
All right. Congratulations, Chase. You are the winner out of the two of us on predictions for this event. Congratulations, sir. I am humble before you.
Yes, absolutely. But no, this one was a very fun one, a lot of twists and turns, and I'm very glad that we have a running tally now because this will be very fun to keep up with.
I was gonna say now I actually have to like really like put some stock into what I'm saying here. This is keeping me honest over here now. So I got to really think about some of these. This is good.
No, we're doing the next week's
Oh
fights.
yeah,
Yeah,
most
I
definitely.
actually said that. I know that sounded like we were ending that shit. My bad, guys.
I
No,
thought
we
you had to
still
leave.
got
I
like
was like,
an
what?
hour left. Yeah, don't worry.
All right. Well, that being said, let's do just that. We're going to take a look here now at UFC 325. This is, of course, Volkanovski versus Lopez 2. And to start, well, to end the card, we go the opposite direction here. Starting off our predictions, Alexander Volkanovski, Diego Lopez having a rematch here, Chase. Everybody's got a lot of opinions about this, considering that Diego Lopez just fought him. I mean, why is this happening? We know that the Paramount's rights deal and all this is, it makes it an interesting dynamic as to why this is happening, but all that goes out the window. What do you think is going to happen in the fight itself?
I'm going to go with Diego Lopez because I think that listen, I made a great point at the end of the year. If Alexander Volkanovski is the pound for pound number 5 guy right now, I know somebody that just took him to a 5th round and had the judges decide who won that fight after. So, where's Diego Lopez lay on that list? I tell you guys, he is one of the best in the sport right now. He dropped Volkanovski to his face in the 2nd round of their fight. I think he can do something like that again. And I'm not saying this is because Volk is going to get caught. Listen, we've talked about it before. When it comes to age, it's the millisecond that you got between the shot grazing your nose or you getting chinned. And Volk is at the point where he's not slipping those punches as easy anymore. He's getting chinned, unfortunately.
Okay, fair. I mean, let me just also mention and see if this changes your perspective at all. This card is, of course, taking place in Australia.
Mhm. So what you're saying is Diego Lopez is he's gonna be tired. He's not gonna be on the same sleep schedule as what you're going with. I'm gonna say Diego Lopez, listen, he rides into town on the same horse that he came into the other town on. This
Well,
guy's gonna win in Sydney again. I
I mean,
already thought he did the first time.
either that or that I mean, if it goes to decision again, I'm just I'm not saying, but I'm saying, I mean, do you think that there's going to be any hometown bias? Do you think maybe crowd pops might play a role in that? I don't. Look, we're talking through all the details. I mean, these are the details, right?
It definitely plays a factor, and I'm not saying that you're incorrect to think this, but I would say the UFC is more hell bent on having a Mexican champ than any Australian judge out there. This guy, they want Diego Lopez to be the champion, uh, and if not, set up something bigger, they're going to set up a trilogy with fucking Volk. I mean, Diego Lopez is going to get the belt. Volk is going to rematch him in Mexico, probably. They're going to go build another sphere. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, I like the narrative that could be formed around that. The first fight, as you said, was very close. I think that what I want to say and what I'm hoping is the case here, as a Diego Lopez, as a Volk fan, but I'm a fan of both of these guys, so that kind of goes out the window. But my point is that Diego, I think, has proven himself to be a very high fight IQ fighter. He is a person who adapts, and when he loses, he learns from his losses. The only thing that I saw in their first fight that really made the difference was I think the cardio starting to slip a little bit towards the end. Diego does have 5-round experience now over a couple more. I mean, he hasn't had to go the 5 rounds in all of them, but still, I think that there is what I'm saying is that I think that the elements could be more prime for him now as he continues to get better because he has consistently proven himself to be a fighter that does get better after his
Yeah.
fights. So that being said, based on also, the factors with Volk being a guy who, he's had ups and downs recently. I mean, the fact that he has the belt now to a lot of people, you go back not too long ago, 2024, 20, like somewhere in that range, no one would have even thought necessarily at that time that he would get back on top. People were thinking that he was completely finished at that point. Volk is an unpredictable guy in that way. He is one of the truest champions that we have ever had in this sport, in my opinion. Future Hall of Famer is an understatement. The guy is a legend. I do think that the dynamics of this one will make sense if Diego wins this fight. I want to see that. I mean, I'm not just speaking from what I want, but I do think that the circumstances can be correct for Diego to win if he has adjusted and made the improvements that he needs to. I got to believe that that's going to be the case based on what we have seen fight over fight.
So you're taking Lopez as well.
I am.
Okay.
And this is going to be another one where I'm going to kick myself tremendously if Volk wins it again. But it's like Diego. He's that dude. He is the once and future king. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If it's not Volk now, when will this guy get the belt? It's not a matter of if, it's when.
Yeah, true. I agree. I'm taking Lopez as well.
All right, both going for Lopez. Lock it in. And again, I'm going to be kicking myself if Volk ends up winning that. But all right, fair enough. This card takes a bit of a couple of twists and turns here. This is an okay fight, but we're going to get into some of these other ones that are not necessarily as high quality. But your co-main event is Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint Denis. I think we're probably going to be in somewhat of lockstep on this one as well.
I mean, there's a couple that I've already looked down the list, and I can tell you that there's not much conversation that needs to be had. Benoit
Right.
Saint Denis is a marauder, and Dan Hooker is a guy who bleeds off of anything. So I'm going to take a doctor stoppage here for Benoit Saint Denis.
I mean, I think that that's as good a version of the end of this fight as it's going to be for Dan Hooker, because I one way or another, Benoit Saint Denis, if you recall, I put it into the equation for a very specific reason. I did not think that he was, but I mentioned that Benoit Saint Denis, there was a case for him being fighter of the year last year. If you recall, all of what he did last year, based off of coming off of the Dustin Poirier loss, he had a tremendous 2025. This guy is the real deal. He is as advertised in a lot of ways. Granted, the fight with the Canadian maybe was a little bit of a handpicked, or not a handpicked, but like it was a little bit of a softball based on circumstances. But that's one out of the multiple good performances that he has had. He has shown himself to be durable and tough. Dan Hooker has shown himself to not be that. Dan Hooker is memeing himself at this point. Optics in this sport, he could just be doing it for the memes, but the meme becomes the story and the narrative after a while, and we saw what happened with Armin. So I think that Benoit brings a lot. Like, Benoit is not as good as Armin, but he brings a lot of the same tools to the table. I think Benoit Saint Denis wins this fight.
All right, we're 2 for 2 here.
I know. And again, guys, you got to realize if we do start deviating on our picks, we are both streaming to our individual channels. Make sure you like the channel with the better picks. But so far, we are in lockstep.
Hell yeah.
All right, next one up. Another one I think that is so easy, and you mentioned something that was kind of crazy to me. We'll talk about. This is Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Hufi. Did you tell me, and is this correct, that Fiziev is now the underdog in this fight?
I'm pretty sure that is what the case is. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Fiziev is going to be the underdog going into this.
I mean, I've never seen a barking dog more attractive in my life. I mean, after what we've seen out of Mauricio Hufi, and me having said since he started in this organization that he has a style that will be figured out by the highest of the level of the guys that he is going to fight, and then having that happen last year, I don't, how and why? Explain this to me.
I rewatched Hoofy and BSD
Uh,
in the lead up to this week. I did the whole fight marathon between Hooker and BSD. Hoofy in the rewatch actually did not look as bad as I remember him looking. It was actually a competitive first round. The takedowns, he was stuffing them early. He got taken down and Benoit jumped on his back and he got a choke in. Fair play to him. But I think right here, a lot of people are building this story for Fiziev as if he's not some dude who comes out here and gets very close fights. I mean, Justin Gaethje is a prime example. I know he did it twice, but those are both fights that I think arguably he won, but he didn't. It's not my choice; it's the judges. I think Mauricio Hufi is a dude who can convincingly win fights, and the reason he does that is because they don't fucking move after he does it. So I'm worried for Fiziev. He's very short. He's not going to have any sort of range. And he's one of these guys that's just a ball of fury. He just jumps in there and he just blitzes you, kind of deal, and then he gets out and blitzes you. He's got a very good kick. But what I will say is he's one of these guys that has this evasive maneuver where the way he defends kicks is he just leans back as far as he can. Mauricio Hufi might be able to catch him with something, guys. This dude's very long. I mean, for this weight class, he's got size. I mean, when you watch the BSD rematch, you realize like Hoofy is fucking huge, guys. So I think it's gonna be. I'm gonna have to take Hoofy on this one.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let me tell you, I'm hearing what you're saying, and I do think that you're making some good points here. Hoofy with the range, that's going to be a bit of an issue if Fiziev does not cut that off and does not close the distance. That I can see being an issue, being a definite problem. I want to see Rafael Fiziev cut right past that, get past the kicking range, get into close range, and piece him up on the inside. If he does that, then I think that a lot of what Hoofy brings to the table ends up going out the window, because what I saw in the Benoit Saint Denis fight was the multiple times where Benoit was keeping him on the back foot for him to set up the ranged attacks, and those not being able to happen because of the pressure. Fiziev, like you said, he's a guy that's going to go in there and push past. Like he keeps the pressure on. Justin is like, that was why that was like such a forces meeting each other kind of thing, head clashing, because they're both trying to pressure each other, and then you get this jumble in the middle. With Hoopy, he has to have the dynamics of the distance in order to do the creative stuff that he does. If he starts going away from the creativity, I mean, I think it would fundamentally change what he brings to the table. I think in this fight, it would probably make a good amount of sense to do that, especially after we saw that Benoit was able to get past those maneuvers. That might be a little bit more of an issue. If all things are equal, as we know these two fighters to be, I'm going to be betting on Rafael Fiziev to get past the kicking range, get inside, piece him up on the inside, maybe clinch up. That would, I think, would be a very good way to negate a lot of this. I know he's not a guy that'll go for a lot of takedowns, but that would also be helpful to tire him out a little bit. I can see a path to victory for Rafael Fiziev. That's my mindset. I'm going Fiziev.
All right, guys, you heard it. The first time we're gonna differ here. I'm taking Hoofy, and Thinker's gonna take Rafael Fiziev. Love
That
it.
is correct. And again, we'll come back and figure it all out afterwards. Let us know who you are siding with in the moment.
Hell yeah.
All right, next up here. This is a fun one. They're sending Taliesin Teixeira back to Australia. This is Tai Tuivasa versus Taliesin Teixeira. Your thoughts, Chase?
It's funny because there's only one thing that you have to have a thought of. It's like, didn't this fight already happen? No, that was Justin Tafa, by the way, and the same exact outcome was about to happen, by the way.
That's hilarious. Goddamn.
Same thing's gonna happen. There's no doubt in my mind. Tai Tuivasa is getting up out of here. This is the way they build Taliesin. I mean, 26 years old. He's got so much more to be in this sport if he really wants to. If he comes out here and beats Tai Tuivasa, that's a resume builder. And then in front of the Australian crowd, like that's a lot of heat that he can get for that. I think this is an easy win for Taliesin Teixeira.
I mean, like, look, man. I know that Tai Tuivasa. This was a conversation that had happened recently. I think I said, I forgot what the context was, but I had said that there are only two fighters that I can think of, like off the top of my head, who have been given as much leeway. I think it was probably in reference to Derek Lewis, but fighters that I can think of that have given as much leeway as they've gotten based solely on them being fan favorites. It is Tony Ferguson and Tai Tuivasa. Like Tai Tuivasa, I know it's a cultural thing and all of that, but if that dude had not drank beer out of a shoe, I don't think that we would be talking about him today.
Fair.
I mean, he's just a guy who he's a slugger. He's a tough guy to an extent, but he is roundly beatable. I mean, like, he is beatable in so many different ways as well. We have not seen Taliesin Teixeira lay on top of people before, but that is a clear-cut possibility. Like you had said, with the Tafa brothers, I always lump the Tafas and Tai Tuivasa into the same grouping, not because they're all from the islands, but because they are very similar in the sense of how they are beatable. If he's going to go in there and stand and bang, he's got as much of a shot of knocking him out as he does if he decides to topple him over and lay on top of him for 4 rounds. For 3 rounds, obviously.
Oh my God, I love this comment here. Aussies jumped the train jumped the Thai train. He kept losing, got fat. Everyone lost interest. I mean, yeah,
dude, if the Australians are jumping off the train at this point, then come on. I mean, like, I think that it's just how many times can a person lose before that is the case, even the hometown crowd. So I think that this is one of those other the kind of the same deal. This is a nice way to build Taliesin Teixeira back. They obviously wanted him to, he's a big, tall guy. He's got a lot of attributes that are attractive at the weight class. Of course, they've been trying to bring in new blood to heavyweight. Getting a win over Tai Tuivasa accomplishes 2 things. It re-raises Taliesin's stock, and it gets Tai Tuivasa out of here, which is, I think, basically what, at the end of the day, is going to be the ultimate conclusion of this.
So at the end of the day, you're taking Taliesin.
I think I have to, man. I mean, we've seen so many Tai Tuivasa losses at this point. I mean, if he does win this, to even think that this keeps him around in the organization, it still doesn't bode well to me. You know what I mean? Like thinking about that 2 steps forward, it's like, okay, you beat Taliesin Teixeira, then what?
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to go with Taliesin Teixeira. I think that it just makes sense.
Hell yeah, I love
Either
it.
that or Taliesin Teixeira really is like a guy who should never have been shot up in the first place. And I will allow for that if that ends up being the case. But in the moment, yeah, I'm going Taliesin.
Yeah, hell yeah. And this one's even easier.
I mean, Jesus, what are they trying to do with a fight like this? This is Quillan Salkild versus Jamie Malarkey. I mean, first of all, I feel for this Jamie Malarkey guy, bro. I do not understand why this guy has become the sacrificial lamb of the lightweight division, because they always put him against killers and he always dies.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, what do you guys expect is going to happen here? Quillan is going to go in here and listen. I even said with his last fight, he did most of the wrong things, did not look great, and still magically ended up with a first round KO. So he can do everything wrong in this matchup once again, and he's going to find a finish on Malarkey, because that is 10 times easier than finding one on Nasrat. So I can tell you that as of off the bat.
That's a really good point. I mean, if he was able to pull the rabbit out of his ass against a guy like Nasrat Haqparast, do you mean to tell me that Jamie Malarkey has anything to bring to this equation? I mean, like, and again, Quillan is a person that up until that point, and even still to an extent because of the dynamics of that knockout, I'm not 100% sold that he's going to like be the next big thing necessarily. But if you're trying to build a star out of Quillen Salkild as the new crop of Aussie fighters, this is the way to do it against a Jamie Malarkey. I mean, like, I don't understand why. Like, I really do feel like at this point, Jamie Malarkey is literally that. He is the sacrificial lamb to make other fighters look better. So I hate to say that. Like, I really wish better for this guy. Like, I pray to God that if he does that in this fight and Quillen Salkill gets the finish, that they give this guy a fucking meatball at this point just to give him a win as a thank you for all of what he's been doing for the organization. But in the moment, with what Salkill brings to the equation, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. And shout out to Lachlan. At least we'll finally pick an Aussie to win at this point.
Brother, it brings me no joy to be picking against the Australians. I got so much love for the Australians and the Aussie fighters and the Aussie people and the Aussies in the chat always. Much love to the Australians and the New Zealanders. It just is what it is, and thankfully we will have Quillen Salkild to get us our first Aussie pick of the evening.
Hell yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, anything else? Nothing else on that, eh?
No, nothing else. I'm taking Quillen easily.
I think, yeah, again, it makes sense. All right, this is a more interesting fight, perhaps. This is Junior Tafa versus Billy Elikana. Son of Susie is back.
That's exactly what I was going for. I am not swaying away from Billy Elikana for the skills that this dude has, the length and size that he has at the lightweight division. He could be very dangerous at 30 years old. I mean, he's already shown that he's a kill or be killed kind of guy. Other than Ebo Aslan, fuck it. The last fight that he had against that Kevin Christensen dude, where he choked him out and we couldn't even see him tapping, brutal. Junior Tafa has no other skills other than a right hand and a left hand. So Billy Elikana should come in here and make this look easy. I mean, it's Junior Tafa. Like, come on, Son of Susie. You have one of the coldest nicknames in the game. You better fucking win, bro.
Hey, he's made quite a fan out of you. I feel
Yes.
every time we talk about Billy Elikana, you seem to be more and more of a strong supporter of this guy, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, again, same with Modestus. I won't say that I'm not still thinking about that one-off performance where you did absolutely nothing. But
Right.
as of right now, Junior Tafa's the prime target to go in here and just rock him in the first round.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it really goes back to the same notes that I had about Tai Tuivasa. So like I said, I lumped them together, the Tafas and Tuivasa, for the exact same reason. Elikana, all he needs to do is get him to the ground one time.
Yeah.
That's it, really. It's all it takes. If Elikana can go in there and actually get the sub out of it, that'd be great. If not, take him down once, take him down twice, take him down 3 times.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. These guys have no ability to get back to their feet. We have seen it time and time again. It is such a consistent problem that core group of those bigger guys just cannot get fixed. It's either they cannot or will not fix it. Either way, it is a glaring hole in their game. They're one of the earlier ones with the history of this show where I was saying, if you are only good at one thing, you are not going to fare well in mixed martial arts. And that is what we have seen consistently. Elikana seems to have a little bit of ground game based on what we've seen in the Christensen fight. Christensen, who, by the way, was supposed to be a lightweight grappling guy. Like,
Yep.
they were touting that on the Contender Series. Oh, this guy's got, triangle submissions. He'll throw up throw his legs up. He uses the legs to octopus and all this kind of stuff. We saw Billy Elikana take care of him very handily. I think that you see very similar in this fight.
So you're taking Elikana.
I have to, man. I mean, I feel bad that we're so in lockstep on these, but it's like when these are so obvious, it seems, at least on paper. It's like I mean, I think I'd be remiss to go against the instinct,
100%, 100%. Let me run to the restroom so we can continue these discussions. Introduce this next one real quick.
All right. Well, you go and do that. And of course, chat, as you know, every time that Chase runs to the restroom during the stream, what you guys have to do in the chat is throw up a whole bunch of L's and give him as much shit as you can for taking a break from the stream. You see your boy, I have to go to the bathroom too. I always do. You see how it is on the watch alongs. I'm in and out of the bathroom 3 times in the course of 7 hours. I have to pee very often, but I stick it out through the entirety of last week's fights while Chase runs off to take a tinkle. So what you guys do, throw up those L's when he gets back and give him as much shit as you can. That being said, the next fight on the docket here is Cam Rouston versus Cody Brundage. I like this fight a lot, actually. Cam Rouston, of course, is has he had a fight in the UFC already? I know the name off of the Contender Series, I believe, and I think he might have had one fight, if I'm not mistaken. But going up against a Cody Brundage kind of performance here, exactly what you're trying to set him up for, Cody Brundage is another guy who you make a name off of a Cody Brundage. What's going to be interesting, and I'm sure Chase will say when he gets back from his tinkle break, is this going to be another Cody Brundage weirdness fest? Because what we know about Cody Brundage fights is that he cannot go through an entire fight without some weird shit happening. We saw it with Abdul Razak Al Hassan. We saw it with Mansour Abdul Malik. I mean, like, time and time again, this guy is having odd things happen in his fights, and it just sort of gets wrapped up into the zeitgeist of Cody Brundage.
Yeah, so the point that I was gonna make while I was thinking, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the point is,
Oh,
I know you guys were talking about how large my bladder is. It's the exact same size as Cody Brundage's brain, and that's why I'm telling you right here, right now, Cam Rouston should win this fight. And I will admit, if you go back and listen to the clips, Cam Rouston has never really spoke to me. It's been like that elite level fighter. Because if you remember, he did not win on the Contender Series against Torres Finney. He got a
ah,
second matchup and he got a knockout victory. And then he came short notice, like maybe a week or two later, and got a performance on a pay per view, I believe, in Australia. Now, what's key to note is I've come along to believe that he actually is somewhat decent. But the key point is Torres Finney was able to take him down and hold him down. Cody Brundage, he can shoot a takedown. He can shoot a takedown. I'm not going to say he can hold him down and do something that's, worthwhile, but he can shoot a takedown. I think at least one takedown comes. And the key is Cam Rouston was not able to get up from Torres Finney. I'm not putting much stock into Cody Brundage, but I'm saying at least one takedown will have us questioning if Cam Rouston can win this fight. But I think he still will.
fair. Oh, okay, well then fair. Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought up his history, because that's what I was kind of going over in my mind as you were in the bathroom, was just trying to retrace the steps of Cam Rouston, and I did not remember the full story. So thank you for the context on that. That actually kind of plays into my assessment here. We are going to differ on this one. I'm going to go with Cody Brundage. I think the experience, based on what you're saying here, Cody Brundage, what I think people forget about him is that he is a tough fighter. He's a tough striker. Like, he will go into the fire if you bring him into that space. We saw that in his last fight, which didn't feel like it was going to be that, right? That was the Petrosky fight, I want to say, right? Wasn't it?
Maybe it was Mansour Abdul Malik.
No, well, that's another story. But he fought. There was one where he had gone, like, he was striking with somebody. I want to say that it was Petrosky. If not, it was someone that reminds me of him.
Eric
Um,
McConico lost by split decision. No, uh, what name did you say? That's a dude who
I
fought
thought it
Cam
was
Rouston last. Petrosky fought Cam Rouston in Australia last.
Oh, okay. Then maybe I'm crossing my wires here with that. Then, okay. Either way, yeah. I mean, then I think that Brundage is a dude who like. Then the Mansour Abdul Malik proves the same point. He was willing to trade with Mansour Abdul Malik, who is a bona fide killer at this point. We've seen him do a lot of things, and it saw that in that fight. Granted, finish was weird, whatever. My point is that I think that Cody Brundage, like, if unless Cam Rouston comes out here and looks like a world ender early, I think that Cody Brundage has the potential to win this. I think that this will be an upset for the home crowd, unfortunately.
And it was the Cuban Missile Crisis. Julian Marquez is who you probably were talking
That's who
about
I was
there.
thinking of. Thank you. Yes, and if you recall, in that fight, we all thought that it was going to be a lot more wrestle heavy, and they ended up starting to stand and bang with each other.
True. Yeah, that was a boring fight up until it wasn't. So that
Right.
was pretty good. So
So yeah,
shout out.
and based on what you're saying with Cam Rouston, it's like, yeah, he has getting out wrestled by Torres Finney. Obviously, that's kind of standard for that. But Brundage will give him a lot more looks. So this could be actually an interesting fight overall. And what I had asked while you were away is there going to be weirdness, considering that Cody Brundage is the weirdness king? This guy has just fluke oddness in every one of his fights. Do you think that there's something weird that's going to happen here?
I obviously, I mean, this is again, we talk about it with a reputation. If you do something enough, if you get a reputation doing something, why would I not think it's going to happen again? And it's not like it's not like it's just magical things that happen. It's like this dude puts himself in situations that somehow stupid stuff happens.
True. Well, yeah, it speaks to the type of fighter that he is. He is so like reckless, I would say, is a good way to say it. Some people are run and gun, other people are reckless. He is reckless, and
He's
I
gun
think
and run.
bingo, exactly. Got one foot in front of the other, and they're tripping over each other. But either way, I think that it could work in this type of a fight Rouston a little bit of a newer guy, Brundage a more credentialed veteran fighter. I think that he has the potential to win this fight.
I'm gonna take Rouston. I'm glad you're taking Brundage though. It makes it interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So there we go. Another differing opinion here.
All right.
All right. Next up here. All right.
Speaking of the king,
Yes, the Iron Hip, I call him, Jacob Malkoun, going up against the King of the Apex, as you would dub him, where his shorts are hanging up there in the rafters. Torres Finney, of course, on this card. This is an interesting one. If you recall, it was it was Andre Petroski in this fight. This is Jacob Malkoun, the only man that I can think of who has gotten a knockout with his hip bone. Going up against Torres Finney, who is obviously going to shoot exactly for that. Do you think that the titanium adamantium hip comes back into play in this fight?
this one confuses me. No, I don't believe his hip is going to come into play, but I was under the assumption that Dana White was looking for somebody that was going to fuck Torres Finney up. Like, Robert Valentine was a good option. It's like he might be able to pull something out his ass, but then doesn't, and he just holds people down and has this, wrestling style that nobody likes. So I was assuming we had some sort of hit out for him. But the fact that he's facing Jacob Malkoun, yeah, Torres Finney is just going to win this one. It's going to be pretty boring.
Yeah, I feel bad because it feels like we really are going against all of the Australians on this card. But like, I also kind of agree. I mean, Jacob Malkoun, granted, he will throw his hands. So I mean, if he can keep at range at all, then maybe there's a chance. Like, he's got to catch Torres Finney very early as he's trying to get his entries. But once Torres Finney, like, he's one of those, in video games where you've got like the different sizes of characters and like they all have their different attributes. He's like the short character that has like that one piece of like their move set that just makes him impossible. He's like Odd Job in GoldenEye, kind of, where it's like he's got that, he's a shorter guy, but he's got like the piece of his puzzle makes it like impossible to beat him if he does the one thing correctly. So if Torres Finney can do what he does best, which is just get his hands on you and just drag you around, I don't think that Jacob Malkoun is going to be able to do much of anything because that's what Torres Finney is good at.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I just feel bad that we, again, are not picking any of the Aussies, but Jacob Malkoun, guys, if anybody out there is thinking he could beat Torres Finney, reach out to me and let me know the game plan because I can tell you right now, he's going to have to defend takedowns. And it looked as to me, Andre Petroski got right onto his fucking hips. I mean, he got so close to his hips, his head was in his fucking crotch, and it just happened to knock him unconscious or something. So
you make a really good point with that. Actually, it is true. Yeah, obviously the fluky nature of what happened with that is what it is, but that had to have come off of him getting a double leg in the making.
yeah, it was deep enough that his head was touching him. So it's pretty crazy. Jacob Malkoun, shout out you. If you're the dude to do it, I will be a fan for life. I'll tell you that.
God, the Torres Finney shade is unreal, but I understand it. I do want to shout out to Lachlan saying the Aussies will start throwing cups into the cage if Finney plays his stupid games. Brother, his stupid games are his only games.
Yeah,
so
true.
So be prepared to be spending $25 on a beer just to toss it into the octagon.
Well, even if they don't do that, like Hydra says, the Aussies will just take it into their own hands. They'll just find him after the event.
Walter Walker with the Tafa biker gang
There you
situation.
go. Exactly.
Look, I again love it, hate it. It reminds me of the conversation around Umar, bro. It's like whether you like it or not, Torres Finney is good with one very specific set of moves, and if he can get his game plan off, it is a big problem for the people that he faces. The fans might hate it, Dana might hate it, everybody we're talking in the world might hate it, but he goes in there with a game plan that has been working for him and has gotten him wins inside the organization. Remember, we were talking about that before he actually got into the UFC, saying, this has worked 3 times on the Apex. How's it actually going to be when he's in the big show? It worked in the big show too. So I hate to say it, but I also am taking Torres Finney on this one.
Hell yeah, I love this one. Cancel his visa after round 1 if he's blind.
Hell yeah. You will never set foot back in this country.
Love it.
All right. Well, going down to the early prelims here, Jonathan McAuliffe is fighting Oban Elliott. You've been off of the Oban Elliott train as of recently. You getting back on for this?
This one is interesting because Oban Elliott, yes, I am a big fan of people who are bona fide decision merchants. You know what you're going to get from them. They're not going to come out here and knock people out. Oban did it once, sure. Any other time, he's going to decision 3 rounds, and of course, with his last performance, it did not look good over 3 rounds. But the point is, I was on my stream and I was updating my watch this list for 2026. I was deleting some names and, I was removing some people. One name that was on there for 2025 that stood out to me that was very interesting, Jonathan McAuliffe. Why though? I don't remember. I don't remember why, but he was on there. I saw something. I think this guy's going to be good. I think this guy's good right here. And Oban is a hard matchup, but I think they know just what they're getting out of McAuliffe because Oban is not a guy that you give to debutants.
Yeah,
And
no, well, I don't think this is not his debut. Actually, can you bring up his record real quick?
I
Just
think
to
I think it's his second fight.
It's the second fight. I'm fairly certain. I know that we've seen him before.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
and what
He
was
unanimous decision against Kevin Jousset, which actually isn't really that crazy of a performance, but he was on the watch this list for a reason, guys. I don't know. I mean, he was there.
probably off of the Contender Series where I think he did end up getting a knockout. Perhaps that does
Sub, I
sound.
think is
Oh,
actually what.
so okay, so there you go. I mean, yeah, this is a good setup fight for that. I mean, both of these guys, even with Oban Elliott being a little bit more tenured in the organization, I still sort of lump him in as a newer guy. I will never forget Oban Elliott on the Contender Series after a ridiculously close fight where he barely got a contract, saying, "Make no mistake, I will be the champion one day." And this is what we have gotten out of him up until this point. I'm definitely not sold on the skill set. I like McAuliffe on this one too. Would I be surprised if Oban Elliott wins this fight? No, because of course McAuliffe is newer as well. But I mean, I'll throw a bone to McAuliffe on this. Why not? Again, I hate to be in lockstep so much as well, but I mean, Oban Elliott, we've seen him get manhandled in fights. We've seen him have close decision wins in fights. We've seen him get a knockout one time that was like, is he going to be able to replicate? And he is not replicated. I'm going to take the gamble on somebody who maybe has more growth going forward.
True, ceiling is definitely higher for McAuliffe as we see right now. Oban, he's stuck where he's at. I mean, that's going to be the fighter that Oban's going to be forever. And shout out to him, he's just a brawler. I mean, that's you can't really whatever. I mean, he's not going to get any more advanced than where he's at right now. If McAuliffe shows that he's got some advancement to his game, I mean, I'm definitely sold. And
Yeah.
Chad seems to be rooting for McAuliffe here, but 10-7 is never mind. He's fucking rooting for Oban. I mean, even though he likes McAuliffe, it was short notice on his first fight. McAuliffe by goofy KO. All these other things, this and that, but we're still rooting for Oban. Jesus Christ, guys. Ugh.
I don't know what people really like see in him, honestly. It's like,
The
I
Hulk
mean,
Hogan pose.
yeah, okay, great. Like, you got an emote. Congratulations. Go out and definitively win your fights aside from the one time you got a knockout, and maybe I'll change my tune. But until then, I'll tell you, like I said, I'm rolling the dice on it a little bit because I think McAuliffe is still unproven, but based on what I've seen out of Oban Elliott, like he's a prime target for someone to prove something.
I don't update the watch this list for just anybody. I'm telling you, this guy ended up on the watch this list for a reason. So
There you
I'm
go.
definitely sold.
All right, there you have it. Move on down the line. Oh, gosh, this fight I like. This is Khan Offley versus Yija. Now, Khan Offley, a dude that we are very well acquainted with around here because he was on The Ultimate Fighter, and we saw what happened there. Afterwards, had a pretty poor performance in his last outing, if I'm not mistaken. Got finished very early, if I'm not
He
mistaken.
got a submission win against Ricardo Ramos.
Then wait, okay, then who am I thinking? Oh, I'm thinking of Nathan Fletcher. Okay, I
Yeah,
mistake
no,
those
he's
two.
tough.
Sorry. Yeah, apologies. My apologies. Okay, so he got a then take it all back. Colin Offley coming back and actually doing something here a little bit better than what he did on The Ultimate Fighter because he got close to the
He got to the
finale.
finale and got knocked out by Myron Santos.
There you go. So okay. That all being said, yeah, Yija on the other side is, I mean, this dude is pretty dogged and he's got a lot of experience. 26-5 for Yija.
Um, when I'm looking at it and I'm thinking about how many Australians I did not take, I really want to take Kano Fly here. But to be fair, he's when we go back to these Ultimate Fighter guys, they are not the best. They are there for political reasons because they get their region on television. It does not mean that they are the best fighters out there. Kano Fly is a prime example of somebody who got to the finale, got knocked out, lost his next fight, and then he got a submission win. It was a big comeback, sure, but he's still 2-1 technically on UFC stage. And
And
go ahead.
Oh, just gonna say, and against Ricardo Ramos, who's now out of the organization, by the way.
Exactly. So it's not really anything that I see too much, but I would love to believe that Khan is going to get this one done. I'm going to go with my guy here.
Oh, well, okay, all right, well, good deal. I mean, look, what I will say about that is that if Ofly, I remember from the Ultimate Fighter, he does try to grapple a whole bunch. If he can get his hands on Yija again, I say it a lot, but I think I have to emphasize the reason. I say do things early. The reason I say do things early in these fights is because it sets the tone for the fight, and you're basically dictating the pace if you can do it out of the gate. Somebody like Yija, who does have some decent hands and is going to be out there trying to strike heavily, if the pace is set to the point where now he has to worry about striking at range, if he has to be considering his footwork differently, like if he's giving him more to think about than what he wants to do, that's the reason that I want things to happen early in the fight. So if Khan can do that, there is definitely a path to victory there, I would say. I'm gonna go with Yija on this one though too, because I do think that Yija is a tough guy. He's got hands. He's just another one of these dudes, because I think he's a road to the UFC guy, I want to say.
Most likely, yeah. Let me
Yeah,
double check that real quick. But I mean, he's on the card with the other Road to the UFC people, so that probably yes, Road to the UFC. Yep.
true. Okay, and is he coming off of a loss, I want to say?
He knocked out Weston Wilson.
Oh, then even more so sold. Thank you.
There you
All
go.
right, then there you go. Then yeah, I think that's I'm good with that. So yeah, okay. So you're taking Khan Ofley, and I'm taking Yija on this one.
Hell yeah.
All right, I like it. A little variation there. Okay, and then yeah, speaking of it, I mean, I guess we can kind of flip a coin on some of these, because some of these guys are newer to the organization. Obviously, you're seeing no pictures here. This is Sang-wook Kim versus Dom Marfan. One is from Korea. That is Sang-wook Kim is from Korea, and Dom Marfan is from Australia. But I believe that these are also road to the UFC contenders.
This is the actual finales of the
Ah,
Road to the
okay,
UFC, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, I mean, coin flip as it is, I'm gonna go ahead and take the Korean. I do like. Let me actually double check if they have any information on him. Is he a striker? Do we know his nickname is the Frogman?
oh, bam! That what a great nickname that is.
But he's got 5 knockouts, 4 submissions, so a little bit of everything. Guys, Korea's got some scrappers. I really do like some Korean fighters. They truly do fight like that. They're there to fucking make the nation proud. Like they normally are really fucking scrappy. So I'm gonna go with my guy from Korea easily.
True. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I mean, of course, because of the way that the nature of this is, actually, what would be kind of cool now that I do have Fight Pass, maybe we'll do a little watch of some of these Road to UFC competitions here. I've never watched it before, so that might be a good primer for this. If we have the time during the week, maybe we'll get to some of that. Don't hold me to that, but I would like to maybe become acquainted with these guys in the moment for the show here. Yeah, obviously for the sake of a little bit of difference, because I do not know either of these guys, I guess I'll go with the Australian on this one. So Dom Marfan for me. Just again, I do not know enough. I'm just gonna be perfectly honest here. I don't think either of us really do, but I think I like your thought process though, that the Korean. I mean, who knows? Dom Marfan could be Korean fighting out of
Yeah, I was gonna
you
say
know
the name is definitely we're gonna have to find out what these guys actually, look like and
right.
what they're about because we don't even have pictures. So we're just kind of just going off of anything at this point.
True. Yeah, Dom Marfan. That sounds like it might be a Vietnamese name based on the three name structure, but
Mhm.
I'm just surmising here. So, all right. So there's a little diversion there as well, and I guess that's gonna be
His
similar.
nickname is
Yes,
Street Buddha.
brother. Oh, Street Jesus, Street Buddha. Come, the narratives in this fight is fantastic. I love it. I'm good with it. Okay, well, I'm taking the Street Buddha then. I like it.
Fun fact, also his latest win is a unanimous decision over a Korean guy. So there
Okay,
you go. Also, fun fact about this guy, I'm just because I'm looking at it really quick. He has
sure.
a loss to oh my god, this dude's lost to Quillen Salkid twice. His only 2 losses are submission losses to Quillen Salkid, rear naked choke, both of them. He fought him in his second fight ever, lost to him rear naked choke. Fought him again for a belt, lost by rear naked choke.
All right. Well, I mean, look, maybe he's made the improvements that he needs to. He is 8-2, so I mean, those are the only losses that he has.
Fair. I mean, you can build a story. The only losses he has is the guy that has wins in the UFC currently, knockout wins. So
Yeah, not look. As I said, it was a little bit of a coin toss, not having seen either of them, and even with seeing them, obviously you never know what the dynamics are going to be off of newer guys coming to the organization. So I'm sticking with the Street Buddha. I like it.
our Korean guy here, he has a loss to Rangju, by the way. in the
Oh,
road to UFC. So
well, does not surprise me in the slightest, considering what a killer that guy is. I love Rongju. He's one of my favorites out of the road to the UFC.
hell yeah. But either way, on to the
Yes.
next.
On to the next one here. Well, again, similar situation, I would suspect, although I don't know if Sebastian is a road to the UFC guy. I would suspect not, but maybe.
Yes, he is.
Is he? Oh, okay. So they are Oceania, I guess, for this road to the UFC as well. This is Kechiro Nakamura versus Sebastian Cezale, maybe
Hmm.
Cezale.
That
Yeah.
that that sounds about right. That looks right. And the thing that it speaks to me instantly is that this potentially could be the Nakamura brother that they've always been talking about. I'm not
Oh,
positive, but I'm pretty sure that it's been a talk that Rinya Nakamura has a brother of some
Renya's
sort
brother. Yes, I was going to
or
say.
relative of some sort.
Okay.
So I think this might be that guy. I am not positive. Don't quote me on that, but he is 5'10" at featherweight. That's pretty tall, guys. He's gonna be pretty tall, and he's Japanese. He's probably got some. I mean, the stats don't show that he's got grappling, so maybe he's gonna go out here. I mean, 6 knockouts and only one loss to a submission. So yeah, he's a striker. I'm gonna go ahead and take the Japanese striker. I like this.
I'm with it. I'm going to differ again on this, mostly because, for again, two reasons. One, I don't know these fighters, so it's a little bit of a coin toss to begin with. But the other one is that Rinya Nakamura, if I'm not mistaken, put on one of the most brain dead performances of all time. I want to say at one point, was it him? Maybe I'm confusing him with a different Japanese fighter, but there was one point where I remember us thinking, was it him versus Muin Gafurov? Does that
Probably,
does that ring a bell? Because yes,
maybe,
like all I'm saying is that there was a time where Muin Gafurov was made to look tremendous in a fight by a Japanese fighter, where I said, "Do not let this fight trick you into believing that Muin Gafurov is a worthwhile contender in this sport." I believe it was Rinya Nakamura, and for by extension, granted his brother is not him, but these are the things that I have in my mind because I do not know these fighters. So
yeah.
for that reason, Sebastian Cezale, you are the man for me right now, and another Aussie pick for our.
All right, I like it.
All right, going on down the line again here, yet another one. A lot of Asia versus Islanders, it would seem on this
Yeah,
because this is Sulang Rangbo. Yeah, I think I got that. Sulang
nice.
Rangbo versus Lawrence Louis. Loy?
This one is interesting because I don't know, again, don't know anything about these guys, but I'm gonna take the Kiwi on this one. They China's got some good athletes, but for a 20-year-old, oh gosh, 20 years old, maybe he is some spectacle, maybe. But I'm 10-3. I mean, clearly he's not like God amongst men kind of deal. But 20 years old, thrown out here in the limelight in Australia, I'm gonna take the Kiwi. I gotta take the Kiwi on this one. I think.
I like it. I mean, 20 years old in it with a 10-3 record. He's got a lot of. I mean, it's always crazy to me how it specifically seems like China. They take a lot of fights young, and I mean, granted, we know in Muay Thai, and that's a little bit of a different circumstance, but specifically in MMA, China for some reason, like they really prepare these guys, or at least they're very active on the regional scene. So I don't know if they're just fighting back to back or whatever it is, but we talked about Rongju, same with Yija. These guys all have like ridiculously extensive records coming into the organization and in his case being 20 years old.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't know. I just feel like 20 is way too young for what we're going to see in the UFC to be quality. I mean, Raul Rosas Jr., we know he's good, but he's not even fucking active. Who knows what that kid's
I was
fucking
gonna say
doing?
he's MIA.
So it
Yeah,
doesn't even matter.
gone off into a cave somewhere. But yeah, so okay, well, if you're gonna go with the Aussie again, not knowing enough about these guys, I will take the other side of the coin just because we're flipping coins here.
Nice. Love it.
All right, and then that brings us down to the first fight of the evening. This is Aaron Toe versus Namsrai Botbayar.
Hmm.
Botbayar.
Shout out the Mongolian.
Oh yes, Mongolia.
Wow, and speaking of the Mongolians, he has a current loss to the only other Mongolian that you can name, Niam
Let's go.
Jargal, Timim Demirel. Yeah.
Yes.
So shout out to Mongolia. They did a matchup Mongolia v Mongolia, and the best Genghis Khan relative ended up on top, and I appreciate that. But now we actually have a real fight. Aaron Toe, he's been in the road to the UFC before. He was in it last year when they went to China and had it in their card or whatever.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so he's been here a couple different times, and he won by unanimous decision the last time.
And he was also on the Contender Series. That's where I know him from.
Right, and so he has a unanimous decision loss to Elijah Smith, who is a decent prospect as of right now, another young kind of guy that's making his way. But Aaron Toe is one of these guys that's, uh, never going to give up on himself. He's a very tough fighter, very hard nosed. I see that he's actually at flyweight now. This is very interesting because for the longest time I've been saying, bro, 5'4" at bantamweight, you're gonna have so many issues. Like it's just hard. So the fact that he went down to flyweight, I'm very happy to hear that for him because again, at 5'4", you need to be at flyweight. I mean, you're just gonna have to make it work because at 5'4", you're gonna be Carlos Vera, and it's hard. That's all that I'm saying. You have to have a lot of skills, and Aaron Toe is just a puncher. He's just a striker. He doesn't really have much of the other intangibles that you're expecting out of a fighter.
Yeah,
So
he's more toughness over technique is what it
yes,
seems. So,
absolutely, yeah.
yeah, well, so okay, but that all being said, the other side of that coin is Mongolia. Now we have been seeing some movement out of Mongolia. We've been seeing some new fighters coming in. One championship has a Mongolian champion right now, so that's Mongolia is an up and coming region of the world for the fight game. It would seem. That being said, it is still a developing region of the world in the fight game, even with some of the successes that they have had, and especially in the UFC. That being said, I mean, what's your pick on all this?
Well, the last Mongolian that we saw in one, I definitely said, like, again, same deal with Toe. He's more toughness over skill, and in
Sure.
one that can get you very far. You can outlast your opponent, and your grit can overthrow that. But in the UFC, again, I've said this before, you need more than just the grit and determination. You have to have some sort of skill to back it up.
Right.
Aaron Toe versus a Mongolian. I'm going to believe that this is going to be a banger first fight. We're going to have two dudes who are going to be punching each other in the face and not falling. But I'm going to go ahead and take the Mongolian because he's 25 years old, up and coming. And from what I've seen from these Mongolian fighters, they are some dogs. Until I see one that I don't think is going to get up, I mean, I'll believe that these dudes are going to, when it comes to grit and determination, I think we're going to have a head to head matchup of that right here. And I'm going to go ahead and take the Mongolian.
I like it, and that'll be another one where we can differ because I think that with Toe, I'm hoping that the move down to flyweight paired with a little bit of experience, knowing now what he has to be better at, aside from like hopefully what I'm saying is that it may be that now that he's gotten a taste of what it's like to be at the biggest level, or at least on the cusp of the biggest level here, that maybe he's added a little bit of technique to it, just a wishful thinking perhaps, but that would be the thought process. He's got experience, at this level, again, fighting at a guy who's still coming in as well, older as well. I think, the experience plays with that too. I'll take Toe in this one just to, again, be different and to hopefully throw another bone to the hometown. He's a New Zealand guy. I think the face tattoo is cool, and I'm hoping that he's has room for improvement because, like you said, a loss to Elijah Smith ages very well now, and I actually didn't dislike him in that fight. I thought that he did some things with the grit side of things that were great. Pair it with a little bit of technique, and he's actually possibly has a decent road ahead of him.
Yeah, I actually agree. The Elijah Smith performance, it wasn't great starting out, but by the time you're watching the third round, I mean, I was rooting for Aaron Toe. So I like the move down to flyweight. I'm really hoping this is good for him. We're gonna have to say maybe this is his first fight at flyweight because they still have his weight at 135 on ESPN, but I'm not positive on that.
Yeah, it could be. So we will see, and obviously we will be watching all of these fights together on our watch-alongs, of course, separately, but still with you guys. We will be together, of course, to watch these fights this weekend. You can find me at youtube.com/@Yama Show, and Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you.
Absolutely. You guys will find me doing watch alongs on Friday mornings, watching one. And then, of course, on Saturdays, watching UFC. That'll be on youtube.com/@CP Smalls. And, of course, every Monday, we go over the fights just like we did today. And we go over the fights for the next week. So be here on next Monday because there's more to go over.
Absolutely. You can find me also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Yama Show. Make sure you follow on there. Go and check out our review of Roadhouse, by the way, people. It's still doing pretty well, and we appreciate all the support that we've gotten on that so far. possibly some more stuff coming out this week. Of course, maybe we will do some Road to the UFC. I'll have to see what the schedule looks like for all of that. I'll keep you posted on social media about all of the start times for that, and of course this show as well. Until next time, everybody, thank you guys so much for sticking it out with us tonight. We really appreciate the support. It's been growing time over time, and we cannot do it without you guys. So thank you very much, and shout out to all of you out there who listen. We appreciate you very much. Have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, and as always, fight on.